Hello and welcome to the Con Couple. I'm Richard.
I'm really hoping our house finally has power.
That's still not your name.
I'm Caroline.
And we go to far too many cons every year.
I would say that we go to too few. This is the last big one of the summer.
It is. We've still got a few more to go, but this is the last. Go. I'm going to have trouble describing any of the cons we go to as big after this one.
Yeah, this is the biggest we've done, I think, ever.
By a lot.
Yes.
Like, I think the previous record holder was Origins, which was around the 20,000 people mark. And this week we were at GenCon.
GenCon.
Which is about 80,000 people.
And did sell out of tickets.
Yep.
So they do cap tickets, which I think is good. Some bigger cons don't.
Like, they needed to. Like, it was... I'm not going to say borderline dangerous. Like, I didn't feel in danger at any point throughout the weekend in terms of, that. But there were some times when it was very, very busy.
Yeah. I will say, just because it has to be, Gen Con does seem to be pretty well organized.
Mm-hmm.
Like, systems happen, they work, not always correctly, but, there's a lot of moving pieces to Gen Con, and I do admire that they pull it off as well as they do.
Yes, I would agree. So,
there's a lot of stuff to cover this episode.
Yeah, this is going to be a long one, but it is a 3.5-hour drive home, including a stop off in Columbus because we need to get food. Because again, our power was out last week, and it wasn't back on by the time we left for this. Hopefully, it will be by the time we get home. So we need to buy some stuff to put in the fridge
and freezer.
Yep.
Yeah. So that said, we are hopefully in better spirits this episode.
Yes. Yeah, we've been a little bit out of it the last few weeks, just not even due to the cons, specifically just because of other stuff that's been going on with us personally. We've been trying not to take it out on the cons, but it has definitely affected our energy a bit.
But this was kind of a fun break from that, and generally I think a fun weekend. And honestly, my energy was up all weekend. Yours wasn't, but
Again, I'm not quite as peppy as you are, and I'm sorry.
That's fair. So how do you even want to get into this?
So
there's the ticketing system, there's the venue, there's parking. Those are things we all kind of sort of talked about at the beginning of this.
Yeah, should we start by talking about the ticketing system? Because that happened months ago.
Yeah.
So, as with a lot of board gaming conventions, because at Gen Con you are going to be going to a lot of individual events that can only host half a dozen people.
Well, at least if you're doing what we're doing, so.
Yeah, we went very RPG heavy.
Yeah, we mentioned, I think in some previous episodes, generally when we're doing tabletop conventions, we tend to be pretty RPG heavy. And particularly at this con, I think we did pretty much exclusively RPGs because they have a lot of stuff. So pretty much we just chose a bunch of RPGs generally, plus board games. In this con, we might talk a little bit about tend to be done at demo tables or places that are a little bit more crowded. RPGs tend to be done in quieter spaces, and we'll get more into that.
Yes. But, so the way that this con does not use tabletop events, which is the program that a lot of conventions, including Origins, uses. Gen Con has what I'm assuming is their own system.
Most likely, yes.
So, whereas with tabletop events, the tickets go live and you can just add them to your badge, assuming you've already bought a badge. Gen Con uses a wish list raffle system? Is that how you would describe it?
Sort of, kind of. It's a bit weird. So Gen Con, Origins and hopefully a lot of bigger tabletop conventions, except PAX, which weirdly just releases events an hour before you're supposed to get there, and you don't know what you're playing until the day of, which sounds weird and miserable, and I don't know why PAX does it that way.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
Yeah. PAX, please change your system.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to your con. I'm going to be honest. PAX is a con back out east that our friend Betty Calzone goes to.
Yep. Calzone Betty.
Calzone Betty.
Who we did actually see at this con.
Yes. Shout out to them.
Yeah. But,
So basically, like most systems, you can look at the events, and tabletop events allows you to like events, and Gen Con allows you to create a wish list with a lot of really complicated limitations.
Yeah, you're limited to how many events?
50 events.
50 events.
You can rank them in order of priority. What that does is basically means that if two events have a time conflict with each other, it'll get you the tickets for the first event as opposed to the second event. So if you liked an event or wish listed an event that started at 2 and one that started at 3, and ranked the event that started at 3 higher than the event that started at 2. It would try to get you into the event that started at 3 first.
Yes. And the reason that it allows for up to 50, because you're unlikely to be doing 50 different things, is just because there's a decent chance there are going to be no tickets left for a given event by the time it gets to you.
Yeah, but 50, I will say, the number of events for Gen Con is not a lot.
Nope.
It's a pretty strong cap, and when I was putting our list together, it got complicated, and the primary thing I was honestly frustrated with is because there's only 50 event spots, and because most RPGs and other things at this con run at multiple time periods, you don't obviously want, let's say you want to play, I'll say 3 Raccoons, a game we played this weekend. This was a game that was running several times. I want to play 3 Raccoons once. So I don't want to wish list it 6 times and then have the wish list have 6 things of 3 Raccoons. That's not going to be good for me.
Yeah.
So that means the games that are on multiple times were harder to fit into my wish list because I could basically only put them on there once unless I wanted to run the risk of putting them on there twice. Now that said, if they're on there twice, you can remove tickets. That's fairly easy to do, but it does mean that then you have to wait for all the wish lists to process before you can fill anything else at that time slot. So yeah, this was a major stressful mess. Also, there were over, I think about 8,000 RPGs that I looked through to establish our wish list. You, on the other hand, didn't do that.
I trust you 100% to plan a schedule that lets us have a fun time. And you did.
Thank you.
I
like how because again, we'll talk about the table diversity we had this weekend, but a lot of times when we're at an all-male, kind of typical RPG table, everyone assumes that I'm the token wife who was dragged along to these events.
No, they don't. They might think that for a couple of seconds, and then you open your mouth, and they realize, oh no, she's better at RPing than he is. He's the one who's here because he's been dragged along.
I'm not sure they realize that, but I hope so.
Yeah. But anyway. So, we're not big fans of, do we think the GenCon system is better than the Origin system?
They're both about equally bad, so we'll talk about, we haven't really talked about what happens after you wish list.
Yeah, so on a specific time, on a specific day, the wish lists get processed. And the way that basically works is it gives everybody's wish list a priority number, and then it creates a timetable for person number 1.
Yeah. And I don't know, with both Origins and Gen Con, I don't know how random this actually is, because you do have to, it doesn't just you can't just have your wish list and then have it be processed and then be given a random number. You have to get on there at 12 p.m. exactly and click submit at exactly 12 p.m. And I assume it processes it based on how fast it receives them, with everyone trying to click at exactly 12 p.m.
Yeah,
which is incredibly stressful.
Yeah, that's awful. Don't...
Let
us submit the darn wish lists
whenever we want, and then just randomize the results.
Yeah, and even let people change their wish list up until the point at which they start processing. I'm fine with there being a button you have to push that says submit this wish list so that it locks it in. That's fine. But not being able to push that button until the time at which ticket sales open and wish lists process is really stressful.
Yeah.
Because you're then basically sitting, staring at your computer, going, how long is it going to take to process mine? How far down the list am I? Am I actually going to get a dang thing that I wanted?
Yeah, all of this process is incredibly stressful for larger cons generally. So I will say some nice features of it that it does have is it has friends list, and you can add friends. So I added Richard as my friend. And you can, from your wish list, also get tickets from friends. And you can also, and this is a really nice feature, select a box saying that if there's only one ticket left for a game and you want that ticket, you can say only get one ticket. So if I was comfortable playing a game without Richard, I would say, yes, I want this to just be a one-ticketed game.
Yeah.
Versus not. Now, you can't do that individually. You just have to basically decide for all of your games if you're okay with getting single tickets or you want all of your seats to be together. But you at least can click a box that says that you are okay with separate tickets.
It's ideally I want 2. If you can only get me 1, just get me 1.
Yeah, which is what I clicked. That said, I think for pretty much everything except for the one thing I was only trying to get 1 ticket for, we got 2 tickets.
Pretty much?
Yeah.
I think you you of the priority order. Like we were worried because we didn't think we were particularly high in the priority order, but I think you just wanted a bunch of stuff that nobody else wanted relative to our place in the priority line. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean the like nerdy stuff I think sells out probably the quickest.
Yeah.
But again, I will say also. So another thing that's interesting about the system, because again, you get your tickets. The system, when we clicked that button, I was faster than you. It took about 5 minutes for it to process. That was really agonizing.
Yeah, that was not a fun day. I feel like it was longer than 5 minutes.
Well, it was like it took 5 minutes for it to actually start processing, and then I'm like, why is there nothing in my cart? I'm like, oh, it's all there. And we got like some of what we wanted. I checked out, and then over the next couple days, the other games that were really high on my wish list actually did become available because some people like returned tickets. So for the most part, we were pretty much able to get all of my top choices, which I'm pretty happy about.
Yeah, we did get a lot of them. We didn't get all of them, but we got a decent chunk of them.
I think between like the cleanup batting, I do think I got pretty much like a lot of my major things. Like again, the other thing that's difficult about like looking at an online sheet or an online spread system is that because you can't really tell like which games are actually going to be what you want a lot of the time, which is an issue I think we ran into at this con and most tabletop cons. Is sometimes you go into a game thinking it's one thing and it's not that thing.
Yeah.
That said, all of the games I was really excited about were pretty much what they were described as, and that was awesome.
Yeah, and we had a lot of fun.
Yep.
Like again, we want to preface this episode with we definitely have some complaints about some specific stuff like the ticketing system, but for the most part, we had a really great.
We did have fun. It's just. My main problem with the ticketing system is similar to the problem with the Origins ticketing system, which is basically it's winner takes all.
Yeah.
Like if you get a low number in the race or have a fastest finger or a faster internet connection, which rules out people with disabilities or people who don't have good internet connections.
Yeah, you are going to get everything you want off your wish list. Like, if you build your wish list properly, and prioritize in the right order, you're going to get everything you want.
Yeah.
Which feels unfair to anybody who like comes in later. And again, I know people are going to argue that it is fair because it's random, but randomness isn't inherently fair.
Yeah, I know Mike, who runs a Catacon, with his number, he didn't get anything from his wish list the first time and had to go back in and re-add stuff just because every event he wanted was full on the first round. So he had to add stuff individually and then run it 6 times.
And again, we did not bump into him at this con.
We
did at Origins, but...
Yeah. It's a 20, Origins is about a fourth of the size. So yeah, it is just one of those things where I get that there's not really a fair way to do it. But it is something for which, I don't know, it would be nice if you could just go through everyone's like number 1 priority and everyone's number 2 priority. I get that would probably be harder to do because it just processes wish list one at a time rather than taking every single person's first priority versus second priority versus third priority choice.
Yeah.
Because this was the other thing I was like mentioning to you a little bit is like, for some time slots, I'm like, either of these games is fine. I don't really have like a strong opinion about what we play at this time slot. So if somebody else really wants this game, I would rather have somebody who really wants this game to get into it over me.
Yes.
Because for some time slots, I'm like, I definitely want to play this one. Whereas at other time slots, I'm like, all of these like 6 games look equally good. So, yeah.
Yeah. Like, again, it's... I don't think there's a good way to do it is the problem.
And that's one of the difficult things about it with larger cons is it's just more stressful. Yeah. Which is, again, why I think that smaller tabletop board game conventions are important. There's going to be less stuff, but if you really want to play something like the Harley Quinn musical, I'm really glad I got into that at Buckeye Game Fest.
Yeah, because there was no chance in heck of us managing to get into it at Origin.
Yeah.
Because, again, it sold out instantly.
Yeah. Good job, Emma.
Good job, puppy. So yeah, again. So that was the ticketing system, and it's also worth noting that GenCon, if you, I don't even remember how much it was, but if you pay a little bit extra, they will mail your tickets out to you.
Yep, it was not much.
With your badge.
I didn't even blink at the price. It wasn't much.
Yeah. Which is super useful because that means you don't have to wait in a long line.
Yes, and it's also worth noting GenCon tickets, unlike Origin tickets, are not free.
No.
And keep in mind, badges we normally don't comment on the prices of badges because they're flexible, but at GenCon, they are $150.
Yep.
And on top of that, you're probably paying, if you're crazy like we are, want to play games all day, you're probably paying like close to
another $100.
50, yeah, just for, And keep in mind, we went with some games and experiences where you're like playing with a celebrity costs like a lot extra. All the stuff we went were pretty much the lowest price tier. Like, because I could only put 50 items on my wish list, I didn't put anything that was out of the like low tiers because I'm like, well, it's a game I've never known before. I have no guarantee that this game is actually going to be good because, again, you don't really know till you get to the table, so I'm not really going to invest any more money into this than I have to.
Yeah, like I think one of the more expensive tickets we had was I did Starfinder, which was nominally a 5-hour session. That was a $10 ticket.
Yeah.
And about $2 per hour is pretty standard.
$2 per 2 hours, so like $1 per hour, depending on what you're paying, which again doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're doing it for 2 people, $2 an hour, and then it adds up over the con, and some stuff slightly more than that.
Yeah, and again, it adds up.
Yeah.
So that actually kind of leads us neatly onto parking.
Well, that's actually, I'm not quite done with ticketing. So there's a couple other problems with ticketing. One is, like, once they mail the tickets out as a deadline, you can't change events anymore.
Yep.
And even if you don't choose to get the tickets mailed out to you, because I did check this, you can't change events. Like, once the mail date has passed, you are stuck with those events.
Yep, because that's, I suspect, when they print them.
And they have keep in mind if another event that you like becomes available, which at that point it wouldn't, because if it's sold out, then you can't change events, so it wouldn't. But like if later it does, you can't get it. So your schedule is pretty set in stone. I was able to get one event late just because I had a 2-hour time block that was free and a ticket opened up the day before. You can only pretty much change events or get refunds at the con, and then put new stuff on your schedule, which is a huge hassle, as we'll talk about. So pretty much once they mail out tickets, your schedule's pretty set.
Yep.
You can maybe add events closer to if you had an open time slot, but otherwise it's just not worth it.
Yeah, you're locked in at that point. Which, again, if you've done a good job of building your schedule, isn't necessarily the worst thing. And I do think that, like, mailing tickets is a good thing that the con does. Like, if they hadn't done that, the line to register and do all that stuff would have been insane. Mm-hmm. It was already bonkers. But so if you didn't choose to have them mailed out to you, you could pick them up from Will Call, which is basically just a row of stands where behind them they've got all the printed tickets ready to go. You give them your ID, they go grab your stuff, they bring it over to you. You're good to go. Which, again, the people working that were fast and efficient and good at it. But with that said, like 80,000 person con, like the line got insane at some point. Like people were probably waiting hours.
And it wrapped around the hallway, which was already packed. And it just mailing tickets generally do recommend that option generally. And but I do wish there was a way that you could change out tickets like closer to the event, and it just kind of doesn't let you do that. So your schedule's kind of set. So ticketing in bigger cons is just always going to be a stressful experience, and it kind of sucks. Still better than PAX, where they just release the events day of, and then you find out what you're going to play when they release the event like day the con starts.
Yeah, that's pretty terrible. And I'll say this for GenCon, like if you you can refund your badge, up to a certain point after ticket sales open. So if there's a particular game you really, really wanted to play and you don't get into it, and you decide, I don't really feel like doing GenCon this year, you can do that.
Yep. Which,
again, that's a good system. Like some cons, once you bought a ticket, won't let you refund it. So I'm glad that GenCon does.
So the other way I appreciate that too. There's also another option for getting into events, which are generic tickets. These are just tickets that let you into any event that you want, but you don't get priority over people who have tickets to that specific event.
Yes.
So if a table's full, sometimes a GM will squeeze you in. Some will, some won't. It depends. And some games have no-shows. You might talk more about that later in comparison to Origins.
Yes. But so for example, if the event costs $8, you can hand over 4 generics, because all the generics are $2, and the GM will just take those in lieu of a specific ticket for their event. And again, some GMs will allow people to turn up with generics. Some will, some won't. It's entirely up to the individual GM. Don't argue with them.
Yeah, we did buy some this weekend, but for the most part, whenever we wanted to join in games, GMs were kind of just loosey goosey with it because we're a couple, which I think is fair.
Yeah.
And also, like, it's just for me as a system that just doesn't like. It's kind of hard for me to go to a table and just kind of like hope that there is a spot there because I don't want to put people on the spot. And like, I also do recognize that with a lot of RPGs, like once you get past a certain number, playing just becomes more difficult for everyone. So
yes,
I don't want to like
agree.
force a GM to like add more people in. Where some games they don't care how many people you are, but it's hard to know that generally.
Yeah, because again, like you mentioned previously, one of the games you did was 3 raccoons in a trench coat.
Yep.
That is a game for 3 players.
Yep.
You are 3 raccoons in a trench coat. Each person is playing 1 raccoon. So it's you can't really squeeze a 4th person into that one. You know, which again, absolutely fine. That's the way the game is designed. So, do we have anything else to say about ticketing?
I think that's most of it in terms of how it works. I'd say it's on par, I think, with Origins. The major just difference is it costs money and you can't change out events, and that makes it, I think, slightly worse for me.
I think so. Like, I do feel like we got more of the things we wanted at this con than Origins.
I do feel like we got more things than we wanted, but that's, again, just a matter of luck generally. And also might be a matter of there probably are, like, statistically, actually, there definitely are more events on, so it might just be a little bit easier to build a schedule because at least some of the stuff at GenCon is still like not completely sold out, whereas at Origins, all of the RPGs were sold out, like all of them, except for like the weird Pathfinder stuff.
Yeah, you say weird.
We'll talk about Pathfinder later.
We'll talk about the Pathfinder stuff out of society later. But anyway, so the next thing I want to talk about, because again, we've been discussing the fact that GenCon is an expensive con. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about parking.
Yes.
So there is a lot of parking in downtown.
So it makes sense to talk about the venue first, because
yeah, that's probably a good idea. So we've talked about this particular convention center a couple of times in the past because we very deliberately went to 2 conventions that were held at this convention center earlier in the year, which was WeebCon and PopCon Indy.
Well, PopCon Indy we mostly went to because they would let us host our podcast live on stage, and that was super cool.
That was super cool.
WeebCon Indy we mostly went to check out the vendors.
Yeah,
check out the venue.
Yeah, we wanted to check out the space prior to this because that was a much smaller con, so it meant we could explore the space, figure it out, do a bunch of scouting.
I am really glad we did that.
So am I, because that meant we knew our way around. Mm-hmm. So
and it's a lot easier getting lost when there's not 80,000 people around you going random directions.
Yep. So yeah. This particular convention center is massive.
Yeah.
Based on some comments that I've heard, I think they've actively expanded it multiple times because of GenCon. Mm-hmm. Because again, GenCon, it's at 80,000-ish, and they cap ticket sales there. Like, and that's the right decision. Like, I don't think they can cram many more people in, which means there's a non-zero chance that convention center might be expanding again. Mm-hmm. Because I get the impression last year they were actively like looking for a different place to host it, but decided not to. And I don't know if that was just the convention center or Indiana themselves, like gave them some kind of benefits to stay. Because 80,000 people suddenly descending on your city is probably going to be good for your tourist money.
Yeah, especially with parking costs, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
So in addition to the convention center, pretty much. The convention center has sky bridges that I think were built maybe for GenCon also to pretty much all of the hotels that surround it. And there's about 7 or 8 of those.
Yep, all of which were also being used by GenCon.
Yes, for events.
Yes.
And in addition to that, they also have a it's a ground bridge technically, but it's still a bridge to the sports stadium where they play games. And that is also being used by GenCon.
Yeah, the Lucas Oil Sports Stadium.
Yeah.
Yep, just the entire stadium floor had.
Which is where the Indianapolis Colts play.
Yep.
It was being used by GenCon.
Yep.
Like the seats in the stadium, because we did go over there a couple times, seemed empty, but the entire stadium field itself was being used, as were the back offices. Like pretty much every conference room that was available within I would say probably a 10 square foot block thing was being used by GenCon.
It was kind of insane.
Yeah.
Like I don't even want to know what the organization level on that looks like. And they did a good job. I want to highlight this. So it did occasionally mean you would sometimes like get a ticket that meant you had to get from one side of the convention center. Like on our first game was in the stadium,
Yep.
and then our second game was in one of the hotels on the opposite side.
Yeah, it takes at least 50 minutes to walk over there.
Yeah, probably more depending on how many people are in your way.
But I will say, like, that's something we find fun. Like, I love exploring buildings where a bunch of people are walking around being nerds. Like, it is just an experience to walk around there and explore everything that's happening.
It is.
And it's like another convention like Origin where it is just very easy to lose an hour just trying to walk around.
And that's without even touching on the vendors hall. So, whereas the Columbus Convention Center has halls A, B, C, and D, this convention center goes up to Hall I.
And they can all connect to each other, and they were all connected to each other.
Yep.
Half of it was tabletop games, half of it was a gigantic vendors hall.
I think it was halls A through D were being used as gaming space, and then everything else was the vendors hall.
Yep.
So yeah, this was a big vendors hall, which we went in twice, or to be more precise, I went in twice, you went in once.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about more when we talk about what we did on each individual day and do the chronological and all of that jazz.
So yeah, it's a ton of space. It's easy to get lost. There is signage, I will say, is fairly adequate for directing you where you need to go, though, which is nice.
Yeah, and we did manage to snag a copy of the physical program. It doesn't have an event schedule for
There's no way to
reasons.
put a physical event schedule in there. There are like over 10,000 events.
Yes, but it does. What it does have is maps. 20 pages of maps.
Yep, for each building. And sometimes double sections of buildings. It's insane.
And multiple floors.
I will also say for each building they do have an event HQ, and you can go up to that desk. Presumably why it exists is mostly so people can like turn in tickets and don't have to wait in a massive line to do so if you're a GM because you need to turn them in.
Yep. But I think they are also used as information points. There were several times when we kind of went up to the event HQ and said, hey, we're looking for room, blah, 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 blah. And they said, it's that way, that way, that way. Super helpful, no notes. Like, the people manning those desks were doing a good job. But, yeah. So, as we were saying, because the convention center is connected by sky bridges to a lot of the hotels around it, it's also connected to the Circle Center Mall, which is quite useful because that means it's also connected to a lot of parking.
Yep. Each hotel has its own parking garages. They're also just adjacent parking garages that people can park in.
Yep.
That said, all of them are ridiculously expensive.
Yep. Yeah, we parked all weekend at the Circle Center Mall. The first day it was $30.
Yep. Then 45, 45, 35.
Yeah.
And we probably could have found cheaper parking, but
you were in a ball gown.
I was in a ball gown, and also just traffic around the convention center is nuts. So we drove in on Wednesday, and we purposely we didn't go into the venue on Wednesday, but we did drive around it just to see what parking would be the easiest to us. And we very quickly identified that lot as the easiest to get to for our direction because we didn't have to go close to the convention center to get into it.
Yep. We could basically just go straight from our Airbnb, drive up a road, and then pull into that one. And we figured, okay, it's going to be expensive, but we'll eat it.
Yeah.
Which, again, it was expensive, but we have the disposable income to eat that.
Yeah, and I think most people who attend GenCon do that if they don't stand in one of the surrounding hotels. Which, by the way, just to briefly talk about it, as I've mentioned before on this podcast, we don't stay in hotels because of my disability. We actually got a really good deal on an Airbnb this time. That Airbnb was nice. And we booked it far out when it didn't have any reviews, so we got it for fairly cheap, which was also nice.
Yep. And it allowed us to bring Emma with us.
Yes.
Good. Yes. We would not have felt comfortable leaving her at home this weekend, even with our dog sitter, because again, power still wasn't back when we left.
Yeah. That's also part of the reason we got in on Wednesdays, just so she could get settled and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we did that. We got in. Oh, sorry, I was talking about the hotels. So for the hotel system, you actually do have a wish list that you can just submit ahead of time, and then there's a lottery later for the hotels you submit, so you can select your top choices for hotels you want to stay at, rank order them, and then they basically do a lottery system where they actually randomize numbers as opposed to make everyone click. If they have the capacity to do that for hotels, I don't know why they don't also just do that for wish list, but whatever. And that leads you to kind of get a hotel if you're lucky enough to get one or not. And obviously it's also out pretty instantaneously. So, and I do not know what the hotel prices are. I'm kind of afraid to look. So
Yeah, I'm assuming they're bad. They are probably very expensive. Like, this is the one thing I will say about the main difference between Gen Con and Origins is just how expensive everything was at this con.
yeah, I will say this is by far the most expensive convention we've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not close. And we tend to do conventions pretty cheaply compared to a lot of people.
Yeah. Again, like, when you're looking at a small, like, basic wrap, pre-made lunch sandwich thing, and it's $12, you know the entire con's going to be stupid expensive.
The other thing I will say is Indiana is really bad at fixing the roads up.
Yeah, they're terrible at it. Like,
it's just kind of horrifically bad. Yeah. So yeah, parking in just cars to an arm and a leg. If you use the app parking spot, I did check briefly. You can, in theory, if you finagle with the numbers enough, find really cheap parking, but you have to do it for like exact times. Like you have to be parked exactly from 8 to 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. And I also just don't trust parking spots or the parking apps as actually guaranteeing parking. They make me kind of nervous. So yeah.
Yeah, I know that Calzone Betty was using Spot Hero this weekend, and I based on what they said, I think it worked okay for them.
But they didn't. Also, based on what they said, I don't think it actually made parking any cheaper. So
yeah. So I'll say this: the Circle Centre Mall parking worked fine for us. Mm-hmm. Largely because we were getting there early in the day and leaving pretty late in the day.
Yeah, we were a bit paranoid with this con, so we got up early in part because we had early morning games, and part because we wanted to get there early just to make sure we could like do stuff and beat the rush, and partially because Emma's been sleeping with you this week due to the power being out, and she keeps waking me up at like 6 in the morning.
Yep.
She's passed out now, though.
Yeah, she is dozy. So yeah. What else is there to talk about on the practical side?
So we can talk about some of it as it comes up, like we'll call and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest option.
If you want to do that, or you want to get into other stuff.
Yeah, do we want to start going chronological then?
Okay. Then we'll probably think of stuff as we continue through chronological stuff.
Absolutely. So, first thing that we did was we drove down here on Wednesday.
Yep.
As opposed to the Thursday when it started. Mostly because, again, we had games that started at like 8 a.m. on Thursday. Is it 8 a.m.?
Yes, it was 8 a.m.
Yeah. Which was a little crazy, but
Mm-hmm.
So we deliberately took an extra couple of days off work, drove down on Wednesday, and got to our Airbnb, unloaded, did all that jazz, got Emma settled, and then, as we mentioned, took a little drive down to the convention center just to kind of scope it out.
Yep. You woke up Emma.
Hi, Emma.
Yeah, we didn't really do much down there at that point. Got food, got checked into our Airbnb, but we've been dealing with the power being out all week, so I think we're just happy to be in just kind of a place that was nicer than a hotel or the heat of our house for a bit. So
yeah,
we chose our parking spot, which I think was a good thing to do.
Yes.
The convention center, by the way, was already crowded because Wednesday is kind of a preview day. They have a bunch of free events. We're already sold out, and I just didn't feel like dealing with the circus. So
yeah, it's turning into a day zero. I suspect GenCon is going to do what Origins has done, and eventually that'll just become another full day.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. It's more money for them, so.
Yeah.
But I will say with Origins, I'm grateful for it being 5 days. GenCon, I'm kind of grateful for it being 4, just because of how intense it is.
Like, yeah, we were definitely flagging a little bit today.
Well, you were.
Okay, I was.
I love you.
I love you too. But yeah, so we went to bed. We got up.
Well, the first thing I did was actually I was just idly checking through GenCon's website, just because your wish list does save stuff, and because I had to rearrange a couple things because tickets became available in games I really wanted to play. I had a 2-hour time slot, and I'm like, there was this game called Three Raccoons, and I'm like, that would be perfect for this time slot. I really want to play that. I didn't wind up getting it. And then I checked the night before, and a ticket was available, so I clicked it. And I had some, I didn't even wind up paying for it because I think this one event got canceled or something. I actually had like a credit on my account, so I got it for free and put it in my account. Which did mean we needed to go by will call in the morning to pick it up.
Yes. So we got up. You got dressed.
We got up stupidly early at 6 a.m.
Yep. I set my 5:30 alarm, the one that's called "I hope this con is worth it."
Because we were really paranoid the first day. Plus, we had a game that started today.
And we weren't sure how long it was going to take to get through,
physically there, because it was in the stadium too.
Yeah. So we got up. You got dressed. Which ball gown was that?
That was a Christmas dress, obviously, because the first game we were playing was a Christmas game.
Yeah. So that was the red and white striped Christmas dress. And we got out. It was pouring rain.
Yep.
So we didn't start on the greatest of moods because loading you into the car was a bit difficult, and Emma was still a bit weirded out by the Airbnb and hadn't fully settled yet.
Yeah, and I think we're a little snippy. But again, it was a stressful week. This was just another stressful thing because it was pouring rain and people weren't. I was just not feeling it. And yeah, I don't think we didn't get into the con in a great mood, but we rallied and we basically said, okay, we've got a little bit of time. Yep.
We should probably go by will call and see if we can get you that ticket for the raccoon game.
Yeah, and I did. We didn't have a program at that point, but I checked the website so we knew where everything was in relation to everything else, and we planned this out because I needed to get the ticket for the raccoon game. We also had some generics we needed to pick up at will call, and you had a Starfinder game you needed to pick up at will call.
Yes. So we did what we do in this situation. We went to the Disability Access Desk.
Yes, because the Disability Access Desk said that they would get tickets for you if you have a disability, and I can't wait in lines. I will say the line for will call at 7 a.m. existed, and I thought it was kind of long then. It was not.
No, that was pretty,
That was like nothing.
Yeah. That line probably would have cleared in 20
minutes.
Yeah, 10, 20 minutes.
I will say they were just starting at that point. I do think you could have picked up tickets the night before, and they are open till 2 a.m. If you want to pick up tickets at 2 a.m. I don't judge.
The volunteers who are working until that time, you are saints.
We do not begrudge people who are working registration. I do think this was the first day that the Disability Access Desk was open, though, because the person who was running it was still a bit confused on how to do stuff.
Again, they were new. It was their first time doing GenCon.
They were apologetic about it. There was no one behind us in line, and
it was fine.
It was absolutely fine. We had time. We were there at 7. The game didn't even start until 8.
Yeah, but as a result of that, we only ended up getting your stuff.
Yeah, just because we didn't want to overwhelm the attendee. Because how it works is they do actually have physical envelopes for everyone who has tickets, and you show them their ID, and then you have to get the physical envelope with the ticket, which is insane. They have everyone's names and just these envelopes that they can give tickets to physically. Which again, it does seem like at this point they could digitize it, but they clearly have run into problems with that and are sticking to this very analog system that is the most pre-millennium thing I've ever seen. Impressively pre-millennium. Don't get me wrong, but definitely pre-millennium.
Yeah. The annoying thing is it seems to be working for them in a lot of ways.
Well, I'm not sure the people in the will call line think that.
True.
So yeah, and our advice is probably get your tickets mailed to you if you can avoid it all. Because again, I don't think either of us would have been terribly crushed if the will call line was impenetrable. But I'm glad we were able to get our stuff just by going at extremely off times.
Yes, we managed to get you your stuff, and then what was it, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock when we were leaving that night. We pretty much had to pass will call on the way out.
I think it was at 10 p.m. Keep in mind it's open until 2 a.m.
Yeah, it probably was 10. So yeah, we went past. There was a line of 2 or 3 people. And I was like, okay, it's probably worth getting them now.
Yeah.
And you basically said, yep, go do it.
So yeah, we did that. We got a disability sticker for me. I don't think I really wound up using it this weekend, but I do like to have it. And I do think because we brought Emma, who is my service dog, today.
Yes.
Maybe somebody spotted it and realized she was a service dog. Yep. I don't really know. It's pretty, you can see it. It's bigger than some other access stickers, but it's not something that I think most people would notice much.
Yeah. It's relatively subtle unless you're actively pointing it out to someone, and I think that's kind of how we prefer that kind of stuff to be.
So we did that because accessibility, I think this is actually a good thing, was not next to the will call desk. You do have to give them your ID, then somebody has to like run over to the will call desk to get you your tickets, which are in the box. It would be cool in the future if you could designate if you wanted to pick up your tickets at accessibility services if you had a documented disability. Maybe somebody would abuse that system, but generally people don't tend to, so.
I would agree. But yeah, so again, the person behind the desk did a great job.
Yep.
They were still kind of figuring it out, but that was absolutely fine. So we got you got your ticket for the raccoon game along with your generics.
They also compliment my taste in RPGs. They're like, this is some really fun stuff.
And again, you planned a pretty full schedule.
I don't do things in half measures.
You do not.
Honey, they weren't even that far over.
Yeah, I know.
Standard, we record this in our car.
We're using hands-free lapel mics.
My husband is an overcautious driver.
Your husband failed his driving test in the UK multiple times for overcautious driving. That's not a joke, that is a thing I did.
How many times did you fail your driving test?
I passed it on go number 6.
We don't judge. For the record, he's a perfectly fine driver. And I'd rather you be an overly cautious driver than an overly aggressive one.
Exactly. So, anywho. So we got our stuff, and then we headed over to the oil stadium. Was it the Lucas Oil Stadium?
Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah.
And it was not terribly crowded at that point. Definitely was by the time we got out of our first game.
Yes. And our first game was
Enchanted Holiday.
Enchanted Holiday. I remembered what it was. I just couldn't remember what it was called. Which was somebody's homebrew game.
Yeah, somebody just made this up, which was very, very cool. It did start at 8 a.m., but again, I was excited about it. And just kind of unintentionally, Thursday, with the exception of the 3 raccoon game that I got into last minute, was all romance games. Like, I wasn't trying to design it that way. It's just that's when romance games I wanted to play were. So.
Yep. Because again, with a board game con, you will frequently find that events you want to do are running exactly once.
Yep.
So you've got to, because they're being run by one person. So you've just got to kind of figure out when you're going to fit it into your timetable.
So we got there fairly early, found the gym. We also had like stuffed reindeer and stuff.
Yep, because of course you did.
Yep.
Yeah, we got there relatively early. The game did start a little late. That was not on the GM. That was just the other players were dealing with like parking, will call, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and she did say she was just going to start like around 8:30 just to make sure that
Yeah, 8:15, 8:30. Just to make sure the people who had tickets had the opportunity to play, which we don't have a problem with that. That was the right decision, and it was also fairly consistent throughout the weekend, I noticed, in that most games of this con didn't start on time, mostly because the GMs were making sure that all their players actually
the only times they definitely started on time were when the players happened to be at the table.
Yeah.
And there were plenty of times this weekend when we were late, and there were plenty of times when other people were late, and it's the reality of being at a con this big. It's easy to not know how to find a room. It's easy to just be stuck. At one point, we were just stuck behind a wall of people. Like, this stuff happens.
It does. And GMs at this con expect it to happen and just kind of work and just roll with it. But yeah, so this was the first game. It was based on like Hallmark Christmas movies.
Yeah, and a very interesting first table to start with, because this was the table and the GM were all women in their 40s, with the exception of us, as I'm not in my 40s and you're not a woman, and also not in your 40s.
Yeah, I'm also not in my 40s.
I know, but it was funny if I said it that way.
Mm-hmm. I love you. Which again, like it was a different group of people to play, TTRPGs with.
Yeah, and this seemed like a group of people who played like more traditional RPGs with their husbands, but like loved romance and Regency and probably read Bridgerton and stuff like that. And it was nice to have a group of people like this, because I've played groups with people who are into more alternative lifestyle or more friend presenting, but this was just the most I don't know how to describe it other than a group of people you wouldn't expect to see at a board game con. And that was awesome.
Yeah.
And they were playing a game for themselves, not for their husbands or for their kids. It was just so much fun. And everyone brought great stuff to the table.
Oh, absolutely. Like everybody had great vibes. They figured out what they wanted to do with the characters pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I held my own.
Yeah, you did. And people seem appreciative of the fact that you were there, and
Yep.
you did play one of the male characters.
Again, that just kind of made sense.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to think of who some of the characters were. We had a Christmas tree decorator who, got a lot of income one part of the year. This was all playing to like Hallmark Christmas movie tropes. I was a girl who was an art show person who went to the town to try to sell a bakery that your character worked at and owned.
Yeah.
There was a single father, with a kid.
Yeah. Whose wife died of mysterious, not being part of the plot syndrome.
Yep.
And
then we had a reporter character who came in to report it on stuff.
And obviously hated the small town and wanted back to the big city. Was clearly intended to find, find out that small town life is actually better than big city, and she should just settle down with a nice man. Again, if you've seen a Hallmark Christmas movie, you know all the tropes that we were playing with.
Yeah, and everyone was having to playing them kind of tongue in cheek while serious at the same time.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. I do think it was creative because the game did have 6 characters, and one of the characters didn't get picked just because we only had 5 people at the table, just because I think the 6th person decided last minute they didn't want to play. No big deal. So they made the 6th character was a photographer, and I think they made the divorced or widower father's daughter the photographer instead to get those plot elements in there.
Did they?
Yeah, they did. That's at least what I thought they were doing.
Cool. I did not even realize that.
The kid definitely took pictures and stuff
that.
that.
The kid took pictures.
And I feel like that was supposed to be her element in the plot, the realization. So.
Okay, that was a really good bit of improv. That's accurate.
Yeah.
I did not even realize the GM did that. If that's what they did.
And the GM gave everyone little scripts to read at the beginning. That was the beginning of a movie that we played with the GM, which was super cute.
Yep.
You liked that, Nick, because both of us like script reading and voice acting and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. And then the basic premise was you start with this little bit of script, and then words just kind of mysteriously fade away, and you're not entirely sure what you're supposed to do next.
Yeah.
And that's the point at which you actually take over playing the character as an RPG character.
And the GM would start by setting up scenes between the characters so they would interact, and then just letting us have at them.
Yep.
Kind of fun, cliche ways. And then as we got further and further along, we were just kind of making the story ourselves, which I thought was a really great way to set up what we were doing and how we were doing it.
There was a fair amount of guidance from the GM as well. They clearly had a specific story in mind, but we were given a lot of room to shape and tweak the details.
Yeah, and encourage different scenes and stuff to happen. And I actually do like that when GMs set up scenes for you to do, but then just let you do them, which is a lot of fun. It's I think the right amount of guidance for a lot of groups, particularly if people are unsure of what to do a lot of the time. And
again, a lot of it does just come down to knowing your table and knowing what's going to work for them. But this was a really fun, satisfying game. I enjoyed it.
And because it was flirty, pretty much everyone just flirted with everyone else at the table. It was great. We just kind of decided to be the polycule. What was the thing we named it?
Holly Jolly Polycule.
Yeah, that would be the name of the Christmas movie, which I think Hallmark's only a few years away from actually doing. So.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It took them quite a while to get to admitting that gay people exist. So yeah,
they've embraced it, sort of.
Kind of.
But yeah, we were having fun. And just having fun, flirting with everybody in every scene and doing all of the holiday movie tropes and stuff like that was a lot of fun.
It was.
And then it became, of course, a reveal of, we were characters and somebody was watching TV. This was a really good homebrew. I liked it a lot.
Oh,
It was all just out of this person's mind. They put work into it. And that's something I noticed throughout the weekend was GMs were doing a lot of work on their games.
There was a lot of prep work went into this con. I don't think we played with a single GM who, half-assed their preparations.
And I will say this was probably one of the most even tables we had in terms of contribution. It did help that it was the first game, but I really felt that everyone at the table, brought something to the game.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, I've never really gotten to play a game with a bunch of women in their 40s who are a little bit older than me, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was probably my favorite game that day.
And it's kind of tied for me with most eligible, which we'll talk about in a bit, but you were flagging by that one, so.
So.
Do you have anything else you want to say on it?
Not too much. Again, it was a great time. I had a lot of fun.
I like the ending too. I'm not sure how much we should reveal in case this person wants to run this game again. Although
Yeah.
it'd be very weird for somebody to both listen to this podcast and play this game, but it could happen.
Who knows? But yeah. But I will say I was tearing up a little at the ending.
Yeah, the ending was really cute and sweet. It is also a diceless game. It's pretty much all RP, which is my MO at the moment. So
Yes.
I know you like dice a little bit more than I do, but
Again, I like dice for certain things and not for others. Like this was 90% social interactions, and I don't tend to enjoy dice in social interaction moments. Like I don't need to roll persuasion. I would rather like actually give an eloquent speech and have the GM go, yeah, that's good enough.
do you like it though?
I did. I had fun. So, yeah. So that game ended. We left the stadium, and that was when.
Okay, all the people applauded GM at the end, which is so cute. Okay, this was just so much fun, and it was so wholesome. I was interested to know. Sorry if I keep talking about the. Wait, it's a podcast. I'm supposed to keep talking. Did you feel comfortable at the table?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Because I know there's a couple tables where you don't feel as comfortable, but.
So again, we discussed this when we played Thirsty Sword Lesbians. Like, it was mostly a case of figuring out where everybody's boundaries were in that game. Whereas with this one, because we were playing with like Hallmark Christmas tropes, like we were all flirting, but it was also flirting in that kind of Hallmark way where like nobody in those movies actually knows what sex is, which basically let me be a lot more like comfortable with it, if that makes sense. Because I was fairly confident I wasn't going to overstep anybody's boundaries.
Yeah.
And again, at one point, like I can't remember the specific context, but I like put my hand on your shoulder.
Yep.
And looked at the person next to me, like, is this okay? And she said, yeah, sure. And then I put my hand on her shoulder as well, just to kind of mime it. Because again, I have noticed that when I'm RPing, I do like to start doing a bit of mime.
Yep. And I know that when we're RPing and sitting against each other, we do touch each other quite a bit, but like we know each other's physical boundaries, and obviously we're married, so.
Yeah.
And like I wouldn't feel comfortable doing like that level of stuff with other people.
Yeah.
Like when we played a game later, I was flirting with two characters in the game, Fiasco, and like when I was flirting with the GM who was playing a character, I was not touching them.
Yeah.
When I was flirting with you, I was touching you.
Yes.
It was funny. So.
And again, that's just a matter of knowing everybody's limits and all that kind of stuff. And again, like if you want to touch somebody else at an RPG table in any capacity, just ask first. Like if it's not okay, that's fine. Like sometimes it's just a case of you want to shake their hand or mime something, or as I say in this case, like I cannot remember the context of why I put my hand on each of your shoulders, but
it's also worth noting a lot of those people.
No.
Have been going to GenCon for 20 years, which is awesome, including the GM, I think.
Yeah, based on what the GM said, like she's been coming, I believe, has been coming to this con with her family for years. And again, I'm not sure she's quite as old as you implied she was.
She said she was in her 40s.
Did she?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I missed that.
Yeah, vaguely at least. People at this table, I will say, looked incredibly good for being in their 40s.
Yeah.
And just incredibly good generally, because then a modifier.
Yeah. Again, I would not have pegged any of them as old as they were implying they were.
And he's not saying that in a sexual way.
No, that's I'm very bad at telling people's ages, and you all looked great.
Yep. And you're embracing life, so that's awesome.
But yeah, we okay to move on to the next one?
Yeah, I think so. Sorry, I keep talking about it. I'm just trying to give each event their moment.
I know.
So then we had to hoof it across the convention center.
Yeah. So this was the point at which we went out of the stadium. We went under the because it's an underground bridge that connects those two rather than Sky Bridge. But again, it's indoors. That's all we really cared about. We entered the throng.
The throng. So yeah, I was a bit kind of, as a first con, I think we were both a little bit confused about like what crowd levels would be like, but we entered the throng, we got through the stadium, we got to the main thing, and it was on.
Yep.
It was crowded. Like, not as ridiculous crowded as it got later, but crowded enough that like it already surpassed Origins.
So yeah, but we made it through the scrum. Over to the hotel on the opposite side, or one of the hotels on the opposite side. Was that the Marriott? No.
Hyatt.
So yeah, so we made it over to the Hyatt, and we had to kind of go down and around, and like you were in a room for this one that was way in the backside of nowhere.
Yeah, it was very confusing because it was like up one escalator, down the other. Also, for some of these, might get disappointed later. For some of the hotels, events are on the ground floor, but they're on a ground floor that can only be accessed from one set of elevators and not the other.
Yeah.
So it's just like a complete maze. This one was like way tucked in a back corner on a ground floor. Which I will say, I do appreciate them putting RPGs. If you're not with a like group or team, they tend to put you in quieter rooms, which I do like.
Yes.
And I will say, noise bleed wasn't too bad this weekend generally. Like, there's going to be some at a con, that's inevitable, but for the most part, all the RPGs were pretty good.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about the only one that I think had like actual noise issues later. But yeah, so this was 3 raccoons in a trench coat. I basically came there with you, sat down with you, and basically said, I would join in if you had a no-show, but otherwise I would leave you to it.
The 2 other people showed up.
Yep.
They were all singletons like us.
Yep.
And which I didn't notice, there actually are quite a lot of tables where it's a lot of single people playing games. Occasionally we ran into some other couples, but a lot of times it's single people, which is fine. You do you.
Yep.
Split up, play the games you like.
Yes.
But these are 2 people. One, I think, was a girl around like my age, and was kind of like an older gentleman dude. Both were super nice. Both got that it was like a fun raccoon game. Do you want me to do this before you talk about what you did?
Yes.
Okay. So it's basically a game that's what it sounds like. You're 3 raccoons in a trench coat. One of you's the bottom of the trench coat, one of you's the middle, and one of you's the head. So one of you's feet, one of you's hands, and one of you's talking, because you can talk to raccoons. It's extremely silly, and I think both the GMs and everyone else knew that it was extremely silly. It was only meant to last for 2 hours, because there's only so long a premise like that can last. So yeah, we met each other. We came up with little raccoon personalities and name for each other. I named my character Left Foot because I had right feet, or like I rolled really bad on my feet roll. And you just determine your stats by rolling 2d6 together. And I rolled 2 9s and a 3, so that was how that went. Other characters rolled differently. And then for the dice mechanic of rolling for your character, you rolled 2 dice again. And if you get under the number that is your stat, you pass. And if you get above the number, you fail. So for feet rolls, I would pretty much always automatically fail, unless I somehow rolled snake eyes or something very close to that. So I would fail like about 80-ish% of the time on dice rolls. And if you meet, you still pass. So yeah, it was fun. It was silly. The dice rolls didn't really matter. I got to talk as a raccoon. The only real complication with that game is it's a bit unclear because obviously you as a person have more knowledge than your raccoon character does of human customs and stuff like that. So it's a little bit difficult to know like how competent you want your character to be, especially because we had to cook a meal because our raccoon somehow accidentally walked onto an episode of Iron Chef or something. Don't ask. It made sense in the context of the game, and like a lot of it was like a struggle to be like, okay, well, like how much would my raccoon know about cooking as a raccoon?
Feels like the answer should be not very much.
I mean, we kind of just poured everything on each other because that's what tasted good to raccoons. So I think biscuits had mustard on them. There was like a mustard scrambled egg thing. There's salt and pepper that was put on it. Like, yeah, there was a lot of just kind of yes-anding with it. But again, everyone at the table was very game, and I got to like quit as the head of the raccoon, which I liked a lot. Because I got to be the one doing interviews and talking to people and stuff like that. So everyone was having like a good time and a lot of fun.
Cool.
And it was very, very silly. We didn't wind up winning the cooking competition. We did come in second out of 4 people, which 2 people lost to a raccoon. So like,
sucks to be them.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. Lasted about 90 minutes. It was about the right length for it, and I had a lot of blast, and I'm glad I got to do that during that time period.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I went into the vendors hall.
Yep.
So we've already kind of talked about the basics of the vendors hall. It was a madhouse. Mm-hmm. Like, I am not going to lie. I knew that on the days when you were there wearing a ball gown, you were not getting into the vendors hall. Like, it would not have been safe. But I did take the opportunity to wander around. I saw a few things. I bought a few things. Probably spent more money than I should.
Classic.
So I bought you a couple of plush, which I think you like them.
I did. I like them a lot.
Good. Bought myself a couple of RPG books, which I don't know if I'll get to use, but Anybody who's into tabletop RPGs knows the joys of owning more rulebooks than you ever get to use. Specifically, I picked up the Stargate SG-1 RPG, which is it's based on 5e, but I'm perfectly fine with that. Like 5e it's a good system. And then I also grabbed. Why do I keep forgetting what it's called? Phantasma Ultima or something like that. I spotted it and it looked interesting, and I figured, yeah, what the hey, why not? It's basically an RPG system designed to let you run a JRPG as a tabletop game. And I've checked, yes, there are mechanics for the bosses having multiple forms, because of course there are. And I also grabbed the expansion for that lets you run it in a like techno arcana like setting. So it sounded fun. Whether or not I'll ever get to use it, I don't know. But yeah, sometimes that's all you really need is just why not? And it wasn't hideously expensive or anything.
And I think you recognize this was probably going to be your only time in the vendor's hall.
Yep.
Which is absolutely fine.
So yeah, just walking through the vendor's hall itself was overwhelming in the extreme. Like I'm not going to sugarcoat that. There were probably 30 to 40,000 people in that vendor's hall, and hundreds and hundreds of different like booths, and stalls, and like all of that kind of jazz. Like it was insane. But again, I saw some stuff I haven't seen elsewhere. I saw some stuff I saw at Origins, and like I enjoyed it. I think I'm glad that we'd agreed that I would come back to see you at about the hour and a half mark, because I don't think I could have handled it for much longer than that.
Well, it worked out well because we were finishing up right at the time you got back, because the GM did worry that the game would take a little bit longer. Or I don't remember the gender of this person. I'm sorry, it's been a very long weekend. It would take about like that long.
Yeah.
This was part of a series of games, though, that like the stick of them is like they were discovered in an attic, even though they really weren't, because they're like a game publisher, and like these are all like kind of little mini games you could like play. Three Raccoons was definitely a cute one.
Yep.
This was the premise, and it's easy enough to just kind of play. Because I just explained the rules to you, and you could easily play now if you wanted to. You don't really need a book or anything for it.
Yeah. But again, solid premise. I saw the artwork; they look cute.
Yes. And yeah, I'm glad I added it to my schedule. I'm happy I was like somebody decided to actually return the ticket. I appreciated that, and I'm glad I got a spot. It was super fun. So after that, we did Thirsty Sword Lesbians.
Yes.
Which I think the exact title is Pretty in Pink. It's the trans flag colors.
Yeah, pretty pink, white, and purple?
I think it was blue. It's definitely blue and pink and white. That's the flag that they're referencing.
Yeah.
So it's probably Pretty in Pink, white, and blue.
Sounds about right.
I don't know the...
There was orange in there.
Yeah, there probably was orange.
Pink, white, and orange.
Okay.
And again, I can't remember, is that the trans pride flag, or am I getting mixed up?
It's definitely a reference to one of the pride flags.
Yeah.
I'm sorry we're too lazy to look this up right now. But it's Thirsty Sword Lesbians, which we played at Origins, and I adored, and I also adored it here.
Yes. Again, it's a good system. Mm-hmm. It's very, very silly. It's very, very over the top. Like, you are playing, the archetype is the classic, like, what's the phrase? Disaster gaze?
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's all high drama, it's all like over the top, it's all ridiculous, and again, it's great fun. The setting for this one was your classic, like, high school setting.
Yep. And the goal was just to get a date to prom.
Yeah.
And they had like a thing of stuff that went on, or like a bunch of activities that would go on to prom night.
We did not make it out of Friday.
Yeah, the GM did warn that, like, yeah, this in theory takes place over Friday and Saturday in prom. No one's ever made it to prom. I would say it would work as like a few shots to make it to prom, because again, it's a social game. People can just kind of do what they want. It's a lot of fun. What do you want to say about it?
So I did have fun with this one. My main issue with this one is that this was a table of 8, 9. Like, this was a full table, and then one person turned up and said, could they be added? And the GM was like, yeah, sure, why not?
Which again, I get. He did they kind of asked the table. I'm sorry. This was a game where people had a lot of different pronouns, and it's been 3 days. I'm just gonna use they them if I can remember to. They did ask the table, but like no one's gonna say no in a circumstance like that. Even though in my head I was kind of thinking 7's already kind of a lot, especially for a social game.
Yeah, so I definitely feel like we didn't get as much individual attention as we might have liked, just because it was a large table.
Would you mind pulling off there and getting me a drink?
Sure.
Wait, this is the pilot that I think we tried to stop it at the way down that didn't have drinks.
You could be right.
It's fine. Just give me a Diet Coke if they have that.
Okay.
Quality content.
Yes. So yeah, we'll pull off at the upcoming service station. I'll get your beverage.
You want to stop or you want to keep going?
I'm perfectly happy to stop and get you.
No, I meant like the podcast.
Oh yeah, I'll pause the podcast once we actually like pull off the road.
Sorry.
But, yeah.
So what were we saying?
So as I was saying, like I did very much enjoy the game, but I do think that as a result just of how many people were at the table, and also because it was in a relatively loud room.
Yeah, the gamers have their own room that was set up in the convention center, which is cool. They had a similar room at Origins, and the gamers are what they sound like, a group of gay gamers.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Tabletop gamers.
Yeah, and also these days trans gamers and non-binary gamers and everything else.
Yep. Are you something other than a straight cis dude? Congratulations, you can be part of their organization.
Yep, and you were the token straight cis dude at the table again.
Yes, I was. I apologize for how boring I am on the LGBTQ scale. I am not on it, and I do consider myself an ally, but I also am aware that I'm just kind of too boring to, yeah. Anyway.
Let's explore your sexuality in detail.
Not on the podcast. We've already discussed my sexuality in detail on the podcast more than we probably should.
Have we?
We talked about the fact that I went to an ACE meetup.
That's true.
So there you go. Right, let's pull into this service station, grab some caffeine, and then we will get back on the road.
Cool. Actually, pause it. Don't just...
We are going to once we stop.
I know, but you need to vamp. You can't have dead airspace.
I think saying Dumpty 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 Dum is fun. Who doesn't enjoy Dumpty
Emma's
Dumpty,
literally
Dumpty,
awake and judging you.
Emma's always judging me. That's her default. And we are back.
We're back. Sorry if we needed a caffeine hit.
Yeah, fine.
So we're talking about thirsty sword lesbians.
Yes. So, as I was saying, I had fun at this game, but there were definitely times when it was a little hard to hear the other players, partially because, again, there was a bunch of them, and so occasionally there was just cross-talk on the table, and partially just because it was a fairly loud room. But at the same time, I do feel like specific gaming groups having their own space, I think, is a very good thing. Because it lets them run their own space effectively. Because one thing I will say about the difference between Origins and GenCon, GenCon will give you a room that your game is going to be in. They mostly don't give you a specific table, or at least for the RPGs they weren't. Or they would say, "Oh, it'll be at table 3 in this room," and then you'd get there, and none of the tables are labeled in any capacity to tell you what table number it is. So there was a lot of just you kind of just had to go around to the various tables and go "We're here for thirsty sword lesbians," and they're like, "Sure, there it is. Okay, thanks."
This game also was one of the, I think, 2 or 3 we had that were e-tickets. So in addition to physical tickets, you can't elect to have your tickets. It's just e-tickets, which means the person scans your badge, and if it has a ticket on it, you get into the game.
Yep.
I've been told that process has some kinks in it, but it worked extremely smoothly for us.
Yeah.
We scanned our badge,
we
were in the game.
I think e-tickets are used by some of the larger groups who don't want to have to wrangle hundreds of tickets.
I will say the other thing that's nice about e-tickets is you actually can return those at any time. So if you have them, you can switch out tickets a lot more. I really like them a lot. I assume that there's some reason why GenCon doesn't use them, namely that they don't work that well all of the time. But
as I say,
if they did, I think it would be a better system.
Again, I think they're probably good for bigger groups, but again, I'm gonna be honest, I do like having physical tickets that tell you where you're going next. rather than having to constantly rely on an app. Actually, one thing I do want to mention. So I think we've mentioned previously that the Wi-Fi in that convention center is god awful. I noticed when we were there this time, there was a new Wi-Fi network set up just called GenCon. It was good. It was really good. Like, I did a speed test on it. It was like 120 megabits a second. Like, that's really good.
Well, I imagine some people are running some stuff where they need a connection is that good. I imagine there's some video gaming stuff.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, they had their own Wi-Fi network set up. It wasn't in any of the hotels, but it was in the stadium and it was in the convention center, and it was wonderful to have. Because I ran out of data this month as a result of the fact that the Wi-Fi at the house hasn't been working. So I had to slap an extra $20 worth of data onto my contract this month. Yay! But it was super useful to have, and I really appreciated that. So thank you, GenCon. That was useful.
Yeah. So the game I think did work by just because it was a table of 8. I think people naturally divided into about 3 groups because people were like, let's just do stuff separately. We mostly kind of just moved back and forth with those 3 groups.
Yeah.
Which meant there was a lot more downtime, which I think did mean that it was a little bit like character interactive. Like there were some characters in the game that I just didn't interact with at all. I mostly spent my time hanging out with this one person who was in the theater with me. I did like our subplot though, where like we were both trying to get dates for each other, then realized the people we were trying to ask out for the other person really should just be our date. It was a really funny like switcheroo plot that like worked really well.
Yeah, like you guys did a good job, and I think I did a solid job with my character. But again, it was fun, but again, definitely hampered by a couple of like smaller issues. Like none of them game breaking, none of them like critical or anything. Just
I did notice that the game didn't use because most of Thirsty Sword Lesbians is powered by Apocalypse, which means that it uses a string system, which is basically a manipulation mechanic you can have on other players. It's still something that I find. I might talk about this a little bit later when we get to other games. It's a tricky mechanic. I do think it can work well, but at the same time, character control is kind of important to me. And obviously, in most games that we do play that are powered by the Apocalypse, like people are good at like getting consent from the player, even if the character doesn't want to do something.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do think that can be in kind of. There are ways that the mechanic can be problematic if it's not used correctly, because you're essentially making somebody else's character do something that they don't want to do. And like, obviously a player is not their character. That's not the same as violating the player's autonomy, but it is something that I think can lead to uncomfortable situations.
Yes.
I've never seen it lead to uncomfortable situations, but it could.
Yes. I think so far we've been fortunate to play Powered by the Apocalypse games with groups who understand the difference between like player and character and all of that kind of jazz. So it's a case of it would make sense for my character to do this. It's not what I would do, but like the character would, and that kind of thing. Which is fair. And so frequently when you encounter people who are like, but this is what my character would do, they're using it as an excuse to be a dick and ruin other people's fun.
Yeah.
I've never encountered that playing any of these kind of games at cons.
Yeah, I will say we were having this conversation earlier. I can't tell if I love Powered by the Apocalypse games or if I just love the people who play Powered by the Apocalypse games. Because it's pretty much always an awesome table.
Yeah. That's kind of what I would agree with. Like, again, the system itself I think is fine, but I do really enjoy playing with the kind of people who want to play those kind of games, which is it's a weird, like, feeling. Because I'm never quite sure, like, to what extent it's the rules and to what extent it's just the kind of people who like those games.
Hey, I liked it. I liked that subplot. Trying to remember what your character did in the game.
Turned into a werewolf at the end.
Yep. Who'd you wind up dating or get taken to prom?
Church kid.
Of course you did. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you were hanging out with the like stoner kid who had rich parents who dated the stoner or the like church kid's cousin.
Yeah. So yeah, like again, it was fun. It was a good table. It was just again.
My point with strings though is the game's supposed to have strings and just didn't, which is fine. I kind of like them as a mechanic because you also give people strings at the beginning, which helps set up characters. But we just didn't do that.
Yeah.
But it worked out fine. I will say we did a couple rounds at the beginning, and no one was RPing, and then like it got to my character, the other person in the theater. We started doing RP, and then I think that got everyone a little bit more comfortable doing RP.
Yeah, it definitely kind of like worked out a bit better like that. Which again, sometimes you just need a little while to warm up. Like I guarantee you, given that this was like midday on Thursday, this was probably a lot of people's first game of the con.
Yeah. And also, like, I don't think I actually wound up using any of my character abilities. I think you obviously use your werewolf thing.
I use my werewolf thing, but like I very deliberately built to using that towards the end. Because it just kind of made sense for the character. And I did use one other ability at one point, but I can't remember which one it was. So, yeah. Again, I had fun. Do we have much more to say about that one?
It was fun. I like the gamers as a group. I wish the room was kind of better. We did wind up seeing 2 people at a later game, which we'll talk about.
Yep.
Which was a couple next to us who were great. And again, I love queer gamers generally.
So the next thing we did was the most eligible, the Bachelor brackets ed. The basic premise of this was, what was the rules system this was adapting? This was
Good Society.
Good Society,
which is, I haven't heard of it before, but it's basically a Regency romance system, which I'm probably going to buy. Because
if I'd seen it in the... Well, actually, I wouldn't have seen it in the Vendors Hall, because I did the Vendors Hall earlier that day. But, if I'd seen it, I might have picked you up a copy.
Yeah, because I'm definitely going to probably run that at a con at some point, because that's like, all of the Matrix-Ys that I would want to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So the basic principle of this game was you were all a bunch of contestants on a reality, quote-unquote, dating show. Think The Bachelor, The Bachelorette.
Yeah, and we were running, we weren't really late, but we were the last people sitting down at the table for the game, just because we had to run the previous game, obviously, with 8 people, like, pushed to time. Which I will say a lot of games this weekend went to time or close to time. I don't think we had anything that ended ridiculously early.
I think my Starfinder game ended a little bit early, but again, I'll talk about that when we get there.
The table was just, this person bought a bunch of roses and bedecked the table with roses, because roses are a very big symbol of Bachelor, stuff like that.
Yep.
I will say Richard does not know anything about particularly American reality dating shows, and not that much about UK reality dating shows.
Almost nothing. They're not my vibe.
I don't tend to watch them as an adult, but I watched them as a kid, and they haven't really changed that much over the years. The format's the same.
Yeah, they've added more gimmicks.
It's pretty much the same.
And
I think they're a little bit less heteronormative, but they're still pretty heteronormative.
Yeah. So again, the basic premise of this was one person was going to be the star, which ended up being you.
Yeah, I didn't realize, and I don't think any of us really realized, because again, the description just says you're contestants on a dating show. I think most of the other people assumed that the host would be the person we're dating, but it turned out it was one of the characters. When I picked up the star, I thought it was an archetype, but it turned out to just be the person who was in this case, Bachelorette, which I was cool with. I really actually, that would have been a role that I would have loved, so I was happy to kind of just coincidentally have gotten that.
Yep.
You were fading a bit by this point, though. I think we should
I was definitely fading a little bit. Again, just it's been a very long week, and it has been a long day. I did not so I have a preferred caffeine source for conventions, and because this week has been a mess a mess and a half, I didn't do a bunch of the prep work for this con I'd been intending to do in terms of making sure I had food, making sure I had caffeine and all of that jazz. So yeah, I was definitely fading a little bit. And I am sorry about that.
It's okay. And the other table, all of the characters at the table were great, generally.
Yeah.
So as the Bachelorette, so one thing that I did like is we decided a lot of things collaboratively. So we decided pretty quickly that just for ease of everyone just being able to play the characters they want, that we would turn off any heteronormative things about society, basically. Yep. Everyone's just attracted to everyone. Everyone's pan. It's great.
Keep things simple.
Yep. Everyone agreed to that just so they could make their own characters. I did tell everyone, since they were in theory trying to romance me, that I would be them presenting if they cared at all. No one did, which is absolutely great.
Yep. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I feel like the kind of people who would enjoy this game are the kind of people who would say, screw the heteronormativity. But,
Yeah.
You know.
And then we also decided like the tone. We decided on the romantic tone. We went through like limits of the game. I said nothing about body type, which I think was well respected.
Yep.
I don't think if there was anything else we decided pre-game.
Like we basically put it on the scale from classy to trashy.
Mm-hmm. And we decided to make it more bachelor or bachelorette focused. Two of the characters also decided it'd be fun if the two of them like kind of had a flirtation relationship, which I thought was actually really smart, just to make it a little bit less competitive.
Yep.
And everyone had like good character archetypes. So one was, just a really super enthusiastic dude bro with a heart of gold. One was like an influencer trying to get famous because they're always on reality shows. One was a lawyer who like
was basically contractually obligated to pretend to be a lot dumber than he actually was.
Yeah. Who had a crush on the like influencer person, and you were divorcee, who was a bit older.
Yeah.
Who was still kind of hang up on their ex-wife.
Yes. Which again, I wanted to play against my usual type. I wanted to do something a bit different. So by making the character like in their like late 40s-ish, as opposed to a bunch of people who are all playing like late 20s, early 30s somethings, it let me play a character I don't normally play, which was fun for me.
Yep. It was also nice that two couples were playing the game. Like there was a couple, another couple. There was one single person who uses he them pronouns, just because I know because they had a sticker that said he they. So everyone I think was pretty comfortable with each other at the table, which was nice for like the level of flirting. And as the bachelorette, I had to have a fairly like straight personality. Although I did adapt my character from the ballerina girl. And like being her sister. I forgot to tell Betty today that she was I named the ballerina farm girl for her.
It's fine. If she's listening to the podcast, she'll find that out right now.
Yeah.
Hi, Betty.
Hi, Betty. You're the ballerina farm girl in our game, and I'm going to know if you listen to this podcast because you're definitely going to message us about that.
Yep.
So yeah, it was fun. We went through like the normal group dates and stuff like that. Another game with no dice rolling, which again, I love. You do have a rumor spreading mechanic where you can like spread rumors. We didn't really get too far into that, I think, just because it was a one shot, but it was fun to come up with rumors just for fun.
Yep, just like what silly things are they saying on the message boards about this show? And the interesting thing was the GM in this was less of a game master, more of a facilitator.
Yeah, because they were playing the host of the show, so they facilitated scenes and like helped us, but we pretty much came up with everything we're going to do in the game.
Yeah.
And I really love this. I love this and the, I think, holiday game are pretty close to me. Just like really good games that I really just enjoyed. You kind of faded towards the second half of it. It's fine.
I wasn't in the second date.
That's fair. I was really trying to do something at the end because they did like a 2-person date, and I wanted to get the two characters who kind of were trying to make eyes at each other together. What I was kind of trying to do was do that and then come back and have a date with you guys, just because I didn't want your characters, because you and the like other character, the like dude bro character, had been hanging out the entire time. I'm like, okay, let's get them to hang out with somebody else. But I don't think that fully worked in the time we had. It was fun though.
It was. Like I enjoyed it.
I did too, and it was like comfortable and very silly and very fun. And doing talking heads is incredibly fun.
Yes, there was a mechanic whereby you could basically just throw a swan at somebody.
Yep.
And say, I want to know what they think about this. At which point they basically would smash cut to them doing the the reaction talking head, like behind the scenes thing. In reaction to it, which was that was a fun mechanic.
And they also had a mechanic by which everyone had like an NPC character that was like their confidant or their friend you could talk to, all of whom were played by other people at the table, which was great. And it gave people something else to do if they weren't like in a scene. I was a love like coach for I think the Southern lawyer person. You were.
I was the cameraman who was like convinced that one of the contestants was going to be a really successful influencer and kind of wanted in, so I was trying to like help her out as much as possible.
Yeah. All of which was very fun.
Yeah. One of whom was the producer who kept getting your character's name wrong. That was a great gag.
Yeah, there was a gag throughout this where I think just because names were in different places. Like one character was named Bruce and was called like Bryce a lot. My character was named Angelina just because Angelina Ballerina. but everyone kept calling her Angelica.
Or variations thereon.
Yeah.
Which again was partially it was a little later in the day, and partially just like again reading other people's handwriting across a table.
It's
if you've
hard
got a little
because they have the
standee.
little placards. A lot of games have this, which I do appreciate, but my handwriting is not good. So
Yeah, so again, it was fun, it was silly, we had a blast. We've still got the 2 roses in the back of the counter.
you put them away from the dresses, right? Because they're thorny.
Yes.
Okay. Again, they're not going to last very much longer, but I did want to take them just as kind of a souvenir.
Yeah.
Because they bought a bunch of roses from Costco. So this was fun. I'm definitely going to purchase Good Society.
Yeah.
So that was Thursday.
That was Thursday. We are an hour and 40 minutes into this podcast.
Sorry, I like to go into detail. We can speed it up.
You say that. So, then we went back to the Airbnb. We got some food on the way. We went the heck to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got up again fairly early the next morning. Our first game Friday was at 9, I believe.
Yes, it was at 9. I think we insisted upon getting there early because we're us.
Yep.
And that was GenCon Fiasco, or just Fiasco,
Yes.
which is a GM-less, kind of Conan Brothers reality, but a little bit quirky and a little bit dark, kind of tongue-in-cheek humor type of role-playing game where you basically decide everything by playing cards and putting them in front of each character, and you develop your characters based on what cards are in front of you.
Yeah.
And it's, again, diceless and pretty much all improv.
Yes. So, I enjoyed this. It suffered from the fact that of the... How many players was it supposed to be?
I think 5 total, but it wound up just being the 2 of us plus the GM.
Yes.
So I did recommend we play multiple characters.
Which I think was the right call. If we just had 3 characters interacting, it would have been a bit...
Yeah, but the GM was kind of on board with that. And the GM obviously knew how to play, and we're 2 people who can, do improvisational games very easily.
Yeah.
And this is a game where I was talking about where, I like this a lot just because generally I play very femme girly characters. I happen to draw more masculine characters that time, one of which, was a big closet gay character because I thought that'd be fun to work with based on the prompts I got.
Yep.
And one of whom, is the most put upon, person who goes postal at the end of a day. And it was fun to play characters that I don't typically get to play in games.
So yeah, again, the particular game was a lot of fun. You own a copy of this.
I do. I partially played this just so I could learn how to jam it because I do want to jam it at a con someday because I would definitely play this again.
Yeah, so would I.
And this is another game where the GM is basically just a player in the game who's just kind of there to help people along if they're struggling.
Yeah, they're there to the GM for this is basically there to set things up, but after it's set up, they are just playing.
Yeah. This wasn't like a lot of games that was in a nice quieter room though for that. There were people who were playing Everyone is John, which is a game where everyone controls John for the latter half of it, but it was pretty good.
Yeah.
And I think enjoyed it a little bit more than you did.
Now again, I had fun with it. It's just I would have preferred a fuller table, and that's not on the GM. It was a sold out event that only we turned up to, and I think this might be a good opportunity to talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
So, because I don't know how much more I have to say about that event specifically. If there's anything you want to...
Just briefly on that, I will say that 3 I do think is the minimum just because you're repeating scenes with people, you have to be on for those scenes. So having you basically have to have a person trade off just so you can get breaks. I really liked this. I thought the story we told was funny. It's also one where it's I went into it knowing that bad stuff's supposed to happen to your character, so I was fine with letting bad stuff happen to your character. And the narrative control you kind of sort of have is that you can either choose who you want to be in a scene with, or you can choose the outcome of a scene, and the other people choose kind of the rest of it for you.
Yeah.
That said, most games that I've seen of this played and how this was played here, you kind of just wind up doing it all collaboratively together anyway.
Yeah. Again, I don't think at any because at the end of any given scene, you decide if it was positive or negative, and the quote unquote lead person in that scene gets a positive or negative card.
Yeah. You could also say that it's positive or negative to begin with, but then the other person gets to set up the scene. But it's just, I think the mechanic mostly exists to get you used to the fact that you're not going to be in complete control of your character.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just seems I don't know. It seems a little bit weird to me that that's a rule. But I guess it works in circumstances where there are more people, probably. What do you think?
I would say so. Again, I think we were definitely hampered a little bit by the relatively small table.
Again, I really like this game.
Yeah, I definitely had fun with it. And for the record, the GM did a great job.
They did.
Like, I'm glad they didn't just kind of go, well, you two are the only ones who turned up. I don't think it's worth trying.
Mm.
They played it. I think we all had fun.
I did. I think you did too.
I did.
Okay, do you want to talk about the ticketing stuff now?
Yes. So, one of the things that's frequently said about Origins is that there are a lot of people who don't turn up to games, which is disappointing, and that this would be fixed if Origins charged for tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Having now been to GenCon, we were 100% right that people who say that are idiots.
Yep.
Because the no-show rate at this con was probably about the same as at Origins.
If anything, it might have been a little bit higher.
Yeah. There were plenty of games this weekend that were sold out that did not have full tables,
yeah.
And there were multiple events that got close to just not running as a result of no-shows. So, charging for tickets does not make people more likely to turn up. You are old men yelling at clouds, knock it off.
Yeah. It doesn't really do anything for anyone to do that.
Yeah.
I will say, like, again, part of that might also just be that, like, GenCon makes it very hard for you to return your tickets. So that might be part of why there's more no-shows at GenCon, but I still don't think that, like, the ticketing system or, like, making people pay is going to get more people to show up.
Yeah.
And again, I also don't want people showing up for games who don't want to be there. Like, it's just not good for anyone.
Yeah. I don't want people turning up because they feel like they've been forced to turn up.
Yeah.
That's just not a good time. What about you, Emma? How do you feel about this?
She sneezed.
Yeah. That's a good response, Emma. But yeah. And again, I don't care how much money you're charging for a given ticket. Like, if you're not going to turn up, you're not going to turn up. Like,
and like, I do get because some of the argument is that this barrier for entry will keep people from signing up for stuff that they don't really want to sign up for because it costs something, but like, it really doesn't. And like, maybe you can make the argument that it's a celebrity ticket, it would maybe stop you, but like, I'm not going to buy stuff like that anyway, and I don't think a lot of gamers are. Some people will, but for the most part, people are just looking for events that they can play, and there's not really that much difference between an event that costs $8 and an event that costs like $24.
And again, you're probably not going to be getting 4 times as much fun at the $24 one. So yeah, that was mostly just a little like rant I wanted to do. So yeah, so what was it after Fiasco?
That was Ponyhammer.
Ah, yes, Ponyhammer.
So this was our number one priority event for this con.
Yes.
And it's not disappointing, I would say.
Yes, we had fun with this. So, Ponyhammer is what happens when somebody who's a Warhammer 40k fan is friends with somebody who's a My Little Pony fan, and they decide, yeah, let's run a game that's both. So, based on what they said, they have been running Ponyhammer at GenCon for years.
And they have a fan base. Like, a lot of people we played the game with play it year after year because they love it so much. Yeah. I can see why.
I can totally see why.
So I'm a fan of My Little Pony somewhat. You're a fan of Warhammer a lot.
I'm a big fan of Warhammer 40k.
So, like, I was just like, well, this will be a Warhammer thing that he can do that I actually might also be interested in, which I say worked out for the most part.
Yeah, I think we both had fun.
We did.
Interestingly, this was Unification Wars themed, which, okay, I'm going to take like 10 seconds to explain this.
If you're, like, bored, you can fast forward.
Yeah. Basically, most of Warhammer is set in the 41st millennium. They expanded into the 30th millennium for something called the Horus Heresy. The Unification Wars takes place even before that, and we know very little about it from a lore standpoint. So setting a My Little Pony Warhammer crossover thing during the Unification Wars was a really interesting choice that actually worked out quite well. I think it was fun.
That was succinct.
Thank you. But yeah. So, and they did take various inspiration from like specific 40k stuff, some of which was like, so anybody who's ever read a 40k novel will have read the intro spiel that's in the front of every book. The the one that ends with, that begins with, in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there is only war. Yeah, they've rewritten that to be about ponies. It's still the same basic speech, but with a lot more, like, there's reference to things like the Emperor's Space Marines, and, like, the sheer amount of, like, love and bad puns that went into this was wonderful.
So as mentioned, this is co-GM'd by 2 people.
Yep.
There were, I think, 10 tickets for this game. I think we only had about 7 people show up.
7.
Yeah. Which I think is about the right number for this. They did say they would just accept any random people who showed up with generic tickets because technically it can run but I just think that's about the right number to, like, keep the chaos.
Yeah. And they had a dozen characters prepped, and they still had all the, like, leftover characters from previous years.
Yep.
And they basically said, if you don't see anything you really like in this batch, you can, like...
Yeah, they purposely, like, write 12 characters every year that range from most pony to most Warhammer.
Yep. And, like, some of them would just... They brought out a character who, I can't remember what the pony name was, but was such and such the Sigilite, which made all the Warhammer fans around the table go, oh my god. We didn't end up using Malkador, but again, if you're a Warhammer 40k fan, you kind of know why having a character based on Malkador would have been a choice. Again, Malkador's very important, but they had some fantastic character concepts. Like, one of them was called Redshirt, because it wasn't one character, it was just a legion of generic guardsmen, or Imperial Army soldier, or pre-Imperial Army.
Oh my gosh, honey, every fandom has red shirts as a concept. Yes. You don't need to be specific.
But yeah, like, and their entire shtick was they have 1 HP. Everything kills them instantly, but they just get instantly replaced by another dude. And the person doing that was great. Like, they were having fun with it. I got to play the Discipline Master.
You did that solely because of your accent.
Yes.
And you got, so, like, they gave you, like, treats or whatever. Like, it's a standard, like, just, like, add numbers to rolls mechanic. A lot of games have these, especially one-shots at cons, because sometimes you just need dice to succeed for the narrative to work.
Yeah, the system for this was Toon, which is, like, based on basically playing a cartoon. And they are literally called plot points in this game.
Yeah. And I will say the Toon system is what it's supposed to be. Your character can't die, which is awesome.
Unless you have a red shirt.
Yeah, the red shirt can die. They had a special stipulation that they can, and are immediately replaced with another pony. I think they died, like, if you don't count the end where they threw, like, a bunch of them into, I think, an abominable snowman's mouth, I think about 8 of them died.
Yeah.
And as you can expect, this wasn't a serious game. I wasn't expecting it to be. I, as a non-Warhammer fan, really liked it for 2 reasons. One, I got to see a bunch of people be passionate about something that they loved in a way that was just adorably wonderful. Like,
again, every time there was, like, a bad Warhammer pony pun, and just, like, you did not get the joke, but those of us who did really appreciated it, and you were having fun just watching us go, oh god.
Well, I was also just watching a bunch of fans who clearly do this year after year have fun with this. Because everyone in the room, I think, except me, was a Warhammer fan. Some, I think, were My Little Pony fans. But, like, I didn't feel like I was lost or anything in the room, and I was having fun.
Yeah.
And the second thing I really loved about it was, I actually don't remember where I was going to go with that, damn it. You talk about something I don't think of, so you remember it.
So your particular character was a lot of fun, because they were a alchemist kind of character who had made a lot of potions and was really bad at remembering to label them. So they were all labeled with symbols. Yep. So you just got given, like, 20 symbols.
Yeah.
And was like, these are all your potions. They'll do something.
Yep, I enabled them all with puns. It was fun to have me do that.
Yep.
The little pony, like, figurines you could have. And we were dressed that day as ponies, because obviously.
I was also wearing my Imperium pin on my pony cloak, because duh.
Pink Pony Club was one of the potions.
Yep. But yeah, like, it was very, very fun and very, very silly. And again, I love the fact that basically every time you pulled out a potion, they would check their list of what each potion did, and then go, oh god.
Yeah, the only one I think I got right was the healing potion, which thankfully was easily labeled.
Yep. And again, like, we want to emphasize, like, when we say get right, like, all of the potions were the wrong potions. That was the joke. And again, it was very fun. It was very silly. It was, completely ridiculous. And there were multiple moments when we kind of realized what was going on from the 40k side. Only just like, oh God, how the hell are they going to pony this? Like, right down to the fact this included a canon explanation of what happened to the oceans on Earth.
Yeah.
Because again, if you're a 40k fan, Earth has no oceans left. They're all gone. This explained what happened to them in the most darkly comical way possible.
Yeah. I'll admit, like, the Warhammer elements of the plot, I wasn't following at all, but I didn't really care or need to, so I purposely made my character confused just so I could display up the fact that I didn't understand half the stuff that was happening, but it worked.
It worked. It was funny.
Yeah.
You were basically the Pinkie Pie of the group.
Yep.
My character just kind of had a tank that kept appearing and disappearing because, again, continuity errors, and lazy animation, which, again, was funny.
Mm-hmm.
Right down to the fact that at one point I was getting attacked, I was like, so, I have a suggestion, and it's the stupidest thing possible. I'm like, do it.
Yep.
Whatever it is, do it. And I'm like, cool.
I just love that I got to rules lawyer because I accidentally turned the enemy invisible as they were shooting an arrow to win a competition, and I got to argue that you couldn't prove that he shot the arrow because he was invisible. So.
Yep.
And it was a very silly game. I think the other thing I liked, just at least briefly, was it didn't take itself seriously. I thought the co-GMs worked well together.
Yeah, those two have clearly been friends for a long time.
And I will say, in a room, because I was the only femme presenting person, a lot of times I do feel like uncomfortable in rooms, like not majorly, but like minorly. In this group, I really didn't. All of them look like Warhammer players because there's a certain look. No offense.
No, that's fair. Like, all of my Warhammer playing friends know exactly what you mean by that. And if we're honest with ourselves, it's a fair stereotype. Like, there are female Warhammer fans, but they are a minority.
Mm-hmm.
And Games Workshop is trying to fix that.
But it was a lot of fun. It didn't take itself seriously. I wasn't expecting to, and it was nice as somebody who wasn't a fan of Warhammer to be able to do a Warhammer thing with you that you enjoyed, that I enjoyed too. Probably not as much as you, but I did enjoy it quite a bit. Like, I was not bored. It was very, very fun. It did kind of overrun its time slot a bit.
Yeah, like we were actively getting kicked out of the room by the next people, and we also had another game to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, it's gonna happen. Like, they prepped a lot of plot.
They did.
Like, I don't think they needed to prep quite that much plot for the 4-hour time slot. Again, especially as it got derailed a bunch because, of course, it did. But again, like, everybody had fun. It was very, very silly. I love the fact that because my character was a predecessor, like, they were called Fleur de Lis. It was very obviously a reference to, among other things, the
the person who wrote that character was delighted a British person was playing that character.
Mm-hmm.
You had so many plot points for playing that character.
Yep. Yeah, but at one point I was like, yeah, so from Hammer Space I pull out an electro whip, and you were just like, oh, that's really creative, and I was like, no, it isn't. That's an actual thing.
That was probably somebody's sexual awakening, let's be honest.
Yep, the Sisters of Repentia definitely, put it this way. I showed you the models for the Sisters of Repentia later. The original ones, less clothing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a lot of fun. Pony Hammer was good, which it did. Pony Hammer was actually top of our wish list, I think.
Yeah, I mentioned that. It was our top game choice.
Yeah.
And it is one of those things where you don't ever know if your top game choices are going to be good ones or not.
Yep.
But this one definitely, I think, was a good choice for us.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. It was a great top game choice. And I will say for this con, I think I mentioned before, like, a lot of our top game choices, I think, wound up being about what I expected them to be, which was awesome. So that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it straddled our collective interests in very interesting ways.
Yeah. I just love that a group has been doing this for so many years together and, like, clearly knows each other and clearly has fun. And we're also really welcoming of us. And everyone took pictures of us in our costume, which was great.
So yeah, that was Pony Hammer. What do we have to run to after Pony Hammer?
I'm pulling that up right now.
There you
Vamp
go.
for a second, baby.
So yeah, the one thing I will say is this was a room that was kind of weird to find.
There was a lot of rooms.
It was a lot of rooms, and as a result, there was 2 of the players who were supposed to be in it actually turned up like an hour late, realized that they were an hour late because they just misread their tickets. And when we did a bio break like halfway through, actually like turned in the tickets and basically just apologized. And they could have joined in at that hour late mark. They would have been okay too because it took us like 40 minutes to choose characters. But again, it happens.
I did like that they read out all the characters just because they were proud of their character concepts, though. I didn't get bored during that.
Some of them were great.
Yeah, one of the characters kept giving themselves like more and more names as like a stick to that Warhammer group that does that.
Yep.
And then reading them all out every time.
Yeah, what was it, like Rock Hunt, Tamer of the Mountain, or something like that? So like the character description had him always refer to himself by the full thing, so he started adding more titles.
Yep.
Which again, I was like, if he gets enough, he's going to be a Custodes.
So after that, we did Death as My Roommate.
Ah, yes. So this one did involve huffing it over to the other side of the convention center. Yes, huff, pun intended after Pony Hammer, but anyway. And this was a fun little one. Mm-hmm. This was only a 2-hour time slot, I think.
Yeah.
This one was interesting because it was similar to Dread in that its primary mechanic was a Jenga tower.
Yeah. But you don't put the pieces on the top, and I think it's slightly smaller tower, and it has different colors, and I think it comes with a game, actually.
It does.
And the premise of it is that, like, mostly knocking over the Jenga tower triggers the end state, and it's meant to be kind of a macabre cartoon type game, kind of like Billy and Mandy if you're in the US and have seen cartoons. I'm trying to think if there's a similar UK cartoon to that.
There's almost certainly something that...
Or like The God, the Devil, and Bob, probably similar to that.
The God, the Devil, and Bob, yeah, that's probably a good like reference point for the kind of vibe. If you've not seen it, The God, the Devil, and Bob is great. It was cancelled after one season because too many people complained about it. But the basic premise of this game is you are all roommates with Death.
Yep.
And Death is an asshole.
Yep.
So you're all constantly treading on eggshells in order to like not have Death murder you.
Yep. And again, it's something very silly where there's like one bed in the, or like, I don't think there's a bed. There's like a chair which Death sleeps in, and you all sleep in like other places in the apartment to set the tone.
Yep. And it's a scuzzy, rundown basement apartment. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this was fun. Like, it was very silly. The GM clearly loves it to bits. Like, we actually saw him today running it again with a different group.
Yeah, that tower today lasted a while.
Yeah.
Way longer than our tower did. But yeah, that group sounded like they were also having a blast. Our group definitely had a blast.
Yeah.
So. In part because I was playing not a cat, a character that was a cat, but in human form. Just for the comedy aspect of it.
Yep. Oh yeah, I accidentally named my character the same as one of the actual names of one of the people at the table.
Yep.
Which I felt a little guilty about, but again, like, they were fine with it. It was funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would have changed it if they didn't bother them in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's interesting because you get dealt a dead end job. So I was a sandwich artist. You get dealt a hobby, and you get dealt a what's the third thing?
I think it's like an object or something.
Oh yeah. And then you're basically just role playing at that point to and if you do a selfish thing, you have to pull a black block out the tower, and if you do a selfless thing, you get to pull a white block out the tower. And
you also have grievances with your roommates you can use to like make them play other blocks. We didn't really get far enough in the game to make them play that, but it's basically just improv and scenario with like Death making you do stuff and you trying to avoid them, and it gets out of hand incredibly quickly. Everyone at the table, I think, got the memo of what this game was supposed to be, and had a blast with it.
Yep. And again, it was also one of those games that has like an epilogue at the end where it's like, so what happened to your character after this?
Yep.
And we all ended up in jail.
Yeah, well, we did hold the scenario where we inevitably would, just because we're in the scenario where Death kills people to win a bowling tournament. It makes as much sense as it sounds like.
Death really wants to win that bowling tournament, and he doesn't understand why murdering all the other participants isn't a valid solution.
And you have to like make sure that he doesn't murder all the participants, but you can't argue with Death because it's Death. Yeah.
It's interesting. The GM did admit that that's kind of his least favorite of the scenarios in the thing.
I can kind of see that. It is the kind of, I think, the least interesting one in terms of role play. I still think it worked, and I had a blast playing it.
It was still a great, a lot of fun. And for the record, the reason that he was playing that one is that you decide the scenario by pulling a card.
Yeah, I get that, but again, it's a one shot at a con. If you have your favorite scenario, just pick that one.
Yeah. But again, like, even with what the GM thinks is the weakest scenario, we still had a blast.
We did.
Who knocked over the tower in the end? Was it
That was
you?
me.
Yeah, I thought it was you.
I only pulled a couple blocks. There's also a bunch of mechanics that can switch who has what blocks around. Like, in a certain sense, there is, I guess, a winner to this game, which is the person who has the most blocks when the tower falls. But like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, all that does is give them priority in like establishing how things end.
Yeah, which is
fine.
Like, I wasn't trying to win. I don't think anyone really was.
No.
I suppose if you played it more times, you'd get more competitive with it. But
again, you're all screwed, so just have fun with it.
and the GM did do the thing at the end, which a couple GMs I've seen do, which I do actually like as a mechanic if you have the time to do it, which is have everyone compliment somebody else at the table's RP and stuff like that, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I would agree. Again, they were just a really wholesome, I'm assuming him.
Yep.
Just really nice dude. Mm-hmm. And we had fun. I don't know if there's that much more to say about it. Again,
no, it was fun. It was a 2-hour game. That's about what it needed to be. It was fun. It was silly. And was a good time. And I'm glad we put in a couple shorter paced games into the schedule because standard length for a game is 4 hours. I had one that was 6 the next day, which we'll talk about shortly.
Yep.
So the last game of the day was Addams Family and the Vengeance of the Little Yellow God, which is basically an Addams Family vacation game in the Call of Cthulhu system, which I don't like, but there wasn't a lot else available at the time slot.
And we do like the Addams Family.
Yes. And I've played as Wednesday before. I was kind of hoping to get Wednesday again. I'm not going to lie.
You did get Wednesday.
I did get Wednesday again. We could talk about that.
Yeah.
So this again was on the other side of the convention center, so we had to run around again.
Hilariously, this was the exact same room as Pony Hammer.
It was.
And I'm going to tangent briefly.
Yes.
This was the game that I think was suffering from a bit of noise pollution.
Yes.
Just from the room next door.
Because it was its own room. Pony Hammer was also its own room, with just dividers between it to make the room extremely small, which appreciated.
Yep.
But for whatever reason, we did have a louder game on the other side, and this was a quieter table. I think a lot of people were feeling con fatigue, and I do think it also suffered a little bit from the fact of just it sold, I think, 9 total tickets, which I think everyone showed up. And we're all characters in the Addams Family. And once you get past like 5 or so characters in the Addams Family, people are just straight up playing people they don't know.
Yeah.
Like most people aren't that big of fans of the Addams Family. They can play somebody like the brother of Gomez.
Yeah. Like basic. I personally would say that like you're looking at Gomez, Morticia, Wednesday, probably Pugsley.
Yep.
I was Lurch.
Yep. You did a good job with Lurch.
Yep. Uncle Fester, and maybe Grandmama.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of about the characters you're limited to that everybody knows, and that's 7. And Lurch actually had Thing as a pet, rather than Thing being his own character, which I think was probably the right move, because Thing's hard to play as just their own separate character.
Well, you can't talk, and like that's just,
kind of limits your RP
Yeah,
options.
like maybe if you wanted to just have a minor role, which sometimes people do.
Yeah, but it did mean that a couple of the people who turned up to this game were fairly quiet.
Yeah,
throughout.
I think some of them said one thing the entire time. It was scheduled 4 hours, lasted about 3, which I think everyone was kind of grateful for. But there were I think 5 or 4-ish people actually RPing. You were kind of tired again because last game of the day.
And again, Lurch is somebody who should just interject every so often and then fade into the background. He's a butler. That's his job.
I think I was just doing a fairly good job as Wednesday. We did have a Pugsley in this game, so me and the person who were playing Pugsley were playing off each other a ton.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, you guys were doing great off each other.
Yeah. I got to steal a necklace with Thing, which was great.
Yeah.
The Gomez and Morticia were played by a married couple, gender reverse married couple, who we were actually in the
Thirsty
Sort of Lesbian Gays game with us the previous day. They're super nice. I love them a lot.
Yeah, they were great.
And I was really happy. I did when the second person was choosing, I kind of pushed them into getting Morticia, but I was just like, this will be fun. And it was. Yeah. So, just because you can then play up the lovey-dovey aspects way more if it's a couple. So. Yeah. Is a tip for any Wednesday or Addams Family RP fans. You might not have a married couple at your table, but if you do,
having them be Gomez and Morticia works.
Yeah, again, If we had gotten to choose at the same time, I would have pushed for us to be Gomez and Morticia, just because I've already played as Wednesday. But
yeah,
they had a weird choosing system with this.
They basically just got everybody to roll a d20, and then you went down the number order, and you picked rather than have people fight. Which pros and cons to that system, like it does like kind of avoid arguments, but it does mean if you roll badly, you might end up with a character you don't like.
Well, like part of the problem that I think just relates back to the fact that there are 9 people is just there are clearly characters in this that people are going to want to play over others. Something like Thirsty Sword Lesbians, like all of the characters are the same, but here there are clearly characters that people want more than others. Like I rolled a 17. I tied with somebody. They let me go first, and like I wanted Wednesday, so I took Wednesday. And everyone admitted, part of the rolling is just because it's a race for Wednesday.
Yeah.
Like everyone is going to want to play her.
Yeah.
But if I didn't choose her, I knew somebody else would, and And again, I'm a good Wednesday, so.
You are. Like you've played her multiple times at cons at this point, and you are very good at her.
Yeah.
Because again, you know how to do just like that psychotic, but like in a fun way thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is it's a hard line to tread, and you do tread it very well. But yeah, like again, this game was fun.
There was a lot of effort that was put into it. There were like multiple locations we could go. GM had like a map that they made themselves. There were multiple characters. It was sort of kind of co-GM'd. You had a GM and a person who I think, I'm not going to assume the relationships between the two, but
they clearly knew each other, and like so the GM was doing like a lot of the world building and the discussion, and then when we had NPCs to interact with, it was their co-GM, who was kind of doing a lot of the acting for that.
Yeah,
it was a system that I think worked.
Yeah, I think it worked, and again, a lot of it's controlled by your table, and I just think we had a little bit of a quieter, more fatigued table, so it kind of did make the game a little bit more difficult, and I really do think it would have worked better just because of the noise pollution and the fact that because it's such a big table, it's hard to hear on the other end.
Yes.
Cutting down the number of people in it. I think capping at 7, probably. I honestly might cap at like 5.
I would cap at 5 to 6, yeah. I think 6 would have been fine. I think 9 was definitely pushing it.
Yeah. And I couldn't tell how much fun people were having, and if I was derailing the plot too much or something like that. Like Gomez and Morticia and Pugsley were having a blast playing off me. Beyond that, I'm not sure.
Like I was enjoying it.
I was too.
Yeah. So that was the end of Saturday? No, the end
Friday.
of Friday.
We're not even in Columbus yet. We're fine.
Yep. But yeah, and again, a lot of fun, very silly. Just again, suffered a little bit from the fact that the room next door was relatively loud.
And that I think a lot of people were tired of playing characters that they didn't really understand. Which again, if you don't understand a character, just make the character your own.
Yeah.
Like I've asked about that before whenever I'm like, hey, I don't know who this character is, can I just make this up? And GMs are like, sure, go for it. Like, you know what Addams Family people are like, so even if you don't know the particular character. I honestly think it would have been fun if you were playing the person who was Gomez's brother to kind of try to one-up Gomez at every single occasion, or like try to flirt with Morticia or something like that.
I think that's what he's actually like in the show.
Yeah. Which I think you would have been good at, but I think it got played by a character who wasn't really comfortable doing that, so, but that's okay. Or just was tired. Also fine.
Also fine.
I still had fun though, and it's always a blast to play Wednesday, and it was really fun to have a Pugsley to play off of this time. We did a good job with his character. Like, he really got Pugsley down and was able to differentiate him from Wednesday and not make them like the same level of chaotic children.
Yeah, like again, Pugsley and Wednesday should be very differently vibed kids.
And they were.
And they were.
While both still being macabre. So that was Friday.
Yep. And again, stop off for fast food, back to the Airbnb, crash.
Yeah, again, I've been running on like 5 or 6 hours sleep for like the past 3 days, and I'm not feeling it. I wonder when that's going to hit. Probably
tomorrow.
Yay.
When Emma's still going to wake you up at 6 in the morning.
Yep.
Like, I'm going to try and let you sleep in, but I've got to go to work at 8 a.m.
Yay. Speaking of 8 a.m., our first event the next day was at 8 a.m.
Yay.
That's a segue.
Sure.
And we talked about not going to this because we were tired the night before. We're just like, well, we have another event at 10. We'll just go to that instead. Because I purposely got us this 8 a.m. ticket, mostly because the first event I wanted to do of the day was at 10. And I didn't want us to like wait till 10 to get there because it was Saturday. And Saturday at a con like this, you need to get there early.
Yeah.
So we debated not doing the game, and then I woke up early, and I'm like, well, let's just go.
We're just gonna do it anyway, because yeah. So, yeah, what was it?
A fetching tale of dandy dogs.
Oh yeah, this was cute. So the basic principle of this game is it's very much again collaborative storytelling. You are all dogs that work for the devil or a devil, and you like define together like what your devil looks like and a bunch of other stuff, and then you like tell a story of the dogs being sent out to recover a soul, and you can take that in pretty much any direction you want. Like there are some guiding things, but the basic like no two people are ever going to, or no two groups are ever going to have exactly the same experience of this one, which I do like.
Yeah, you can make this really dark, or you can make it really silly.
We ended up going for surprisingly tender and sweet.
Yeah, well, tender and sweet with kind of a gothic fairy tale undertone.
Yeah.
So set during the Salem witch trials.
It didn't have to be. We could have set it absolutely anywhere.
And it's more descriptive storytelling than I would say raw RP, at least the way we played it. You probably could do it with more RP. But our table wound up only having 3 people in it.
Yep. I didn't even have a ticket for this.
No, you didn't. They let you into the room, and we were like, well, if it's a full table, you'll just watch. But, like, you needed a third person for that game, and I think the GM was just kind of happy to look the other way on that one to make the game work. So they were also British, which was cool.
Yeah, I noticed that. Which also meant that when I made the character whose soul we were trying to acquire Scottish, like they did the voice.
Yep. So
they did the voice in a way that wasn't problematic.
So yeah, we RP'd a little bit as the 2 romantic leads, which made sense because the other person at the table did not know us.
Yep.
We described the story together and kind of came up with what it did or how it did what. Kind of play with the concept. It was cute. Like how dark you want to take it with the soul stealing stuff is also variable.
Yeah, because there was basically a conversation of like, okay, so souls in this, you don't necessarily need to die to have your soul be taken.
Yeah.
Like, you know, she referenced the Dresden Files, which basically there's a comment in that book series about how like, you know, humans are a bit too precious about their souls. Like souls are constantly shifting and growing and changing, and like, you know, you can like exchange a bit of soul with a friend if you have a particular like emotional hug with them. You know,
souls can grow back and stuff like that. So like, and the devil in this is not like the Christian conception of a devil. It's more just like a deity, something. Not even really like it's just kind of a folk myth type figure. So a person selling, like, not even selling, but just agreeing to give their soul to a devil doesn't necessarily have to be like
an evil thing.
An evil thing. And I don't think we played it that way in that game.
Might have overshot the 270.
I was wondering about that. Do you need to stop?
So I can just turn us around and we'll
okay.
do it that way. Yeah, so I'll turn us around at the next exit. So, anywho. What were we saying?
The game, like, the devil's not necessarily bad in this game, and, like, I wouldn't describe the ending our character got as necessarily a bad ending for a character. It was just an ending where he made a choice and a sacrifice, and that led to him having happiness.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily imply that anything that happens to him in an afterlife is bad, or even that an afterlife exists. Like
it's just, again, it was just a fun little story. You know? And again, it was surprisingly like heartfelt and sweet and kind of
you cried.
I didn't cry almost.
You cried during the Bachelor game too.
A little bit. Look, I'm allowed to be emotional.
Oh look!
It's the couple with the
sensitive husband.
Yeah.
Love you.
I love you too. But yeah.
So yeah, this was cute. I will say the tickets were a little bit expensive because it was like $8 for a 2-hour game, which is a lot for what that was.
So the fact I didn't actually intend to join this game.
You were just kind of at the table when it started, and we just didn't correct the our GM, which I want to emphasize not on the GM. Like, I think it was more just the game needed 3 people to kind of work.
I think you could make it work with two. Like, I suspect you and I could just do it by
We
ourselves.
probably
if we
could, and
wanted.
like we probably should invest in more like storytelling games of us. Like I might get For the Queen or something, which is a similar story-based mechanic, just to have something for us to kind of play when we need to take our minds off stuff if we don't feel like a board game. And I think also would work as a con at a con if we needed like a game to just kill an hour with.
Yep.
So, and this one is I think another one that would work with that. It's fun. It's silly. It uses not a Terra deck, but
a deck of cards that have a similar like.
yeah. So when you're
vibe to
trying to
Terra,
tell the
yeah.
next point of the story, you pull a card and then see what that card means. And the
Yeah.
story you're telling is how the soul was acquired.
Yeah, and again, the cards themselves are very, very broad on purpose.
Yeah, they're like tarot cards where you can interpret them 1,000 different ways.
Yeah. So, for example, like the first card we pulled was fire, and we ended up deciding that the main character was somebody who was basically making their living making candles. You know, because that kind of works with what we wanted to do.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just obvious. Like I think part of the story was that the mother drowned. Then we pulled a card about like water, which is like, well, we have to find the mother's body now. There's not another way to take that one.
Yep, that's just that's the storytelling god saying, "Do this."
Yep.
Like, okay, guess we're doing that.
Yep.
But yeah, so again, that was fun.
It did mean that because that game ended at 10, and the dealer's hall at this convention opens at 10.
Yep.
And the game ran pretty much to 10. And we had a game at 10 because I don't schedule breaks into our schedule because breaks are for the week.
Yep.
So we had to fight through a wall of people. And I'm in a ball gown because I dressed as Ariel for that day. I think vaguely because the last game we were supposed to be playing that day was beach theme, but mostly just because I got a new dress and I wanted to dress like Ariel.
Yep. So yeah. About 20,000-ish people all trying to get into the vendors hall and us trying to go the other way through them.
Yep.
That was not fun.
It was not fun. Like, that was definitely the most, like, unsafe and uncomfortable I felt at the con.
Yeah, that was the worst it got, for the record. And, like, it just means that we're going... If we go back to GenCon next year, which, again, we don't know, we're hoping to be in the UK, there's a whole bunch of, like... If we do GenCon again, we are not going to be trying to go between games at that point if we can avoid it at all. Cause
I think we've learned that. Again, it didn't help that our game was like right outside that, and they just didn't have any exit points for people in that room, and it took a while and a lot of time and fertility to go that direct. It was not fun, and I'm in a ball gown, and it definitely took us at least 50 minutes. I don't even know.
Yeah,
like there were times we just weren't moving.
Yeah, it was closer to 20. And again, fortunately, we got to the next event at the table, and we gave them a thumbnail sketch of what happened. We're like, yeah, we thought it might be something like that.
And they were understanding.
So, should we talk about that next game then?
Yes, it was a Familiar's Trouble.
Yes.
Which is what I thought was going to be a cute game about you being the familiars of a wizard. Because it says that you play wizards' familiars and you have to rescue them. I thought that would be really cute. I really should look at gaming systems more.
Yeah.
To be clear, it was still kind of cute.
It was still kind of cute and it was fun.
Yeah.
But the system in question was Rollmaster, which is the crunchiest dang thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. Like, you need a computer system to run this.
And that's not a joke. The GM had like some kind of computer program that was doing the calculations for him.
Like, it's on a D100 base system, not a percentile die, D100 base system. And what a crit is changes depending upon spell or weapon. Each individual spell and each individual weapon has a different crit level and a different damage dice depending on the exact D100 level you roll. And it goes above 100 too because of bonuses.
Yep.
So, like, yeah. Each number means a different thing.
Yeah. One of the players at the table was clearly a massive fan of this system.
Yep.
Showed us the spell rule book, and every spell literally has an entire page that is just tables of what happens when you roll, and it's just like, oh my god. Like, again, this was a table of people who loved this system, and us who mostly wanted to be cute animals.
Yep. And we were just kind of confused as to what we were walking into.
Yes.
And I did try to look up gaming systems at least vaguely. It's actually kind of hard to do that and actually know what a system is. Because, like, if you just Google a page, it just says something like, enjoy epic adventures in this world. It doesn't really tell you how the system works.
You know, like, again, some of them are fairly obvious. Like, if it says 5th edition D&D, great, you know exactly what you're walking into. But, yeah. So, yeah, there was a lot of dice rolling in this one.
There was a lot of dice rolling.
We were necessarily prepared for.
And also, like, the type of, like, I don't really mind combat, but I think I was commenting this to you. I really don't like games where, like, you have to ask a lot of, like, minute, detailed questions to, like, discover something. Like, how tall is this building? What does this potion bottle say? What does that potion bottle? Like, it bores the crap out of me. To just go around and do this, like, it's basically like playing a point-and-click adventure with, like, 5 other people, which, again, is not a criticism of the GM, because I'm sure a lot of people like that, but it kind of bores me a little bit.
Yeah.
And there was some RP.
Just not as much as I think we wanted.
Yeah. And I don't mind a game where there's, like, some RP and some combat. We saw, like, I think a good balance of a game that was like that, actually, today, that we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah.
But this one was just a little bit kind of not for us, I think.
Yeah, I would say so.
And yeah, I probably should have checked that a bit better, I guess, but it's hard for me to know. I'm like, I don't pick games based on the systems they're in. Maybe I should start, but I don't. I pick them based on concept.
Yeah.
And this was a cute concept, so I assumed that somebody would just pick a system where it fit. And, like, I suppose it didn't work against the system in any way, but it wasn't, like, yeah, particularly interesting for us. But that said, this still wasn't a bad game.
No.
Like, I had fun.
We had fun. And again, it was mostly just, like, little stuff. Like, Jesus, that was a lot of rolling.
Yeah.
Which, again, if that's your thing, great. You know, you would have had a blast with this. Like, the other 3 people at the table clearly knew the system and loved the system.
Yeah.
This
is just not a system, like, you know, it's clearly filling a niche for people who, like a lot of numbers and a lot of rolling and, like, the amount of detail that has to go into building a system like this. And I'm sure it is a lot of work. It's just not one that I think are more, like, RP type role-playing niche fits into.
Yes. I prefer things a little loosey-goosey to my taste. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm a big fan of Rogue Trader. Rogue Trader also has, like, a crit table that's got, like, 20 different things on it. Mm-hmm. But it's got 1 crit table. I don't need... Actually, that's a lie. It does actually have crit tables for different types of damage. But anyway. But, like, you don't need it to be quite that extensive. But, yeah. So, again, it was still fun. It's mostly just, I don't think it was quite what we expected when we turned up at the table. So, yeah. So, we are coming up to our stop off in order to do a quick bit of shopping and get some food. So we'll probably be pausing the episode again momentarily. Mm-hmm. And then we'll kind of continue on with Saturday once that's done.
Yeah. And Sunday was shorter. I think we only played 1 game, so
yeah.
Maybe we'll keep this episode on 3 hours.
Maybe.
And yeah, I don't want to get into the next stuff till we're back on, so because that was a complicated part of the day.
Yeah. So. We'll need to figure out what order we're doing that in. So yeah, we will be back momentarily after we do some quick shopping.
Okay.
And we're back, and we'll need to make another stop off for more groceries because they didn't have the thing we needed.
Did you get the other thing?
Yeah, I got the other thing.
Cool. You forgot to get me water.
Yeah, I did. But I did get you sun-kissed.
That's good. That was not what I asked for, but you know.
No, but it's a thing that we needed.
It's like that whole like long-term boyfriends SNL thing.
I did not come back with like you did not send me out for 2 shallots and they came back and I did not come back with like a 12-pound bag of onions.
You should watch that clip if you're in a long-term heteronormative relationship. It's too real.
Yeah. My gender sucks. Anyway. So, this is where our day got a teensy bit complicated just because you and I went off to do different things.
Yep.
So, would you like to talk about what you did or should I talk about what I did?
What I did was more complicated. So, let's maybe start with what you did.
Cool. So, when we were doing our big like ticketing thing, You got into this game, but only you got into it.
Well, like I think you could have gotten into it too. I just because of how this was a 6 hour game. That is a long time commitment. Like I've never even seen a 6 hour game, let alone played in one in a schedule, and I didn't know how that was gonna go. And 6 hours is a lot of con time. So I was pretty much, well, I don't want to risk his schedule if this game turns out to suck. Because at least if he has a schedule, we can pivot to that schedule as a backup schedule.
Yep.
So basically, what I did is only request one ticket for the game I wanted to play, gave you a free period, and then had you in a game at 7. Because also the thing with like Gen Con generally is like you generally have a morning game, an afternoon game, and an evening game if you have 3 of the standard games. There's 12 full hours of gaming. But most of the evening games tend to start at 6 or 7 o'clock. And because this was at 2, it ended at 8, and there wasn't a lot of good RP options. So I also wanted to get a 7 o'clock ticket for something. We'll review that later. So I got you that 7 o'clock ticket and just let you do what you want for your afternoon because I'm like, well.
Yeah. So I basically looked at my various options, and I've been meaning to play Starfinder for a while. I did attempt to put a group together for it because I bought the rulebooks in a Humble Bundle sale a while back. And then obviously, like, because life is life, we never actually got around to starting that campaign. And I was like, well, I've been waiting to try this for a bit. It's a 5-hour game. It fits into this time slot pretty perfectly. This will work. So I signed up to do and because the Starfinder/Pathfinder Society was running stuff basically all weekend, I had a lot of options in terms of like I could have done a really high level thing. I deliberately chose a level 1 to 4 module because the Starfinder and Pathfinder Society is actually officially endorsed by Paizo, who make the game, and they run like officially created modules. They do it at a bunch of events. You can like sign up for a like society identification number, and you can like track your characters with them. So you do a bunch of different official sessions, and they level up through that. Which I'm not going to bother doing any of that because I don't care. But I knocked up a level 3 character to do in this game, and I had fun with it. Because one thing I do actually quite like about both Starfinder and Pathfinder is their character creator does give you so many options. You can just come up with a concept and build it. So that's what I did with that 5-hour time slot. So I got you situated in your game, then I hoofed it over to the other side of the convention center, and these games were all taking place in one of the massive ballrooms because, again, the society was running basically constantly all weekend, and I think they had something like 40 to 50 tables running constantly, or near constantly, throughout the weekend, which is completely insane. But it did mean that there was a pretty good chance you would be able to get into something. So there were still tickets available. So I got there. I signed. I handed over my ticket. They told me to go to table green 1, nice and simple. And they had different muster points in the room, which was basically just here's where the lists of where these particular games are going to be. So it was
like a hot air balloon.
Yeah, I see that. That's fun. Yeah, so this was basically just all Starfinder games were at muster point A. Like all Pathfinder was at whatever. Like I mostly paid attention to where I needed to go. So I sat down. There was one other guy already there, plus the GM, because I got there with like 5-10 minutes before nominal start time. And we had a bit of a friendly chat, and then we hit time, and we were still the only 2 people there. And then we hit like 10 minutes past time, and we were still the only 2 people there. So at that point, we were basically like, yeah, this game's probably not going to run if we can't get at least one more person, just because these are official modules, like they are, the GMs have a little bit of leeway to futz with them in terms of making things easier or harder, but for the most part, they're intended to be run by a full table. And if it's intended for a table of 5, running it with 2, you're pushing your luck. So the GM basically ended up sort of toddling off for 5 minutes and then came back with somebody else who'd basically come into the room because they'd been trying to play Fallen London all day, and the GMs for their games just kept not turning up.
I felt bad for this person.
So they basically decided, well, they'd go to the Pathfinder room and get into Pathfinder because they were a big Pathfinder fan. But when they basically got told by the person behind the desk that there was a Starfinder game that wasn't going to run unless they could get at least one more body into it, they pivoted and said, okay, I'm happy to do that. Because again, they played a lot of Pathfinder, they'd not done Starfinder, but they were very happy to join. So they basically just took a pre-gen, and they were a very good late addition insofar as they basically said, okay, what do we currently have in the party and what do we not have? So we basically said, well, we've basically got two people who are designed for mid to long range combat. We could probably do with somebody who can tank a hit in melee. So they said, sweet, soldier class, nice and simple, straightforward. I love somebody who's willing to pitch hits and be whatever the table needs them to be. That's always great.
We love game fillers.
Yes. Yeah. And again, I'm always prepared to do that as well, but this was one where I had knocked up a character concept and created it. Now, of course, I made a fundamental mistake, which was I created a character who's mostly good at being a conversationalist. I created an envoy, and the envoy's kind of the bard of Starfinder, insofar as their primary job is they can do some stuff to buff the party, and they are the skill monkey with a lot of points in charisma. So that they are there to be the face of the party. And this particular module ended up being a bit more about dungeon crawl, effectively. We went over to a archaeological site, went in, had to clear it out of the shenanigans that were potentially going to endanger the scientists who would be coming in later. And then it was a fun little module. The best moment for me was when we were returning to the base and we realized the base was under attack by some bad guys, and I was driving the vehicle because I had taken the ace pilot thing as part of my character creation. And I was just I'm not getting out of this vehicle to attack the bad guys. I'm just going to drive into them. And the entire rest of the party was immediately on board with this idea. One of them had acquired a heavy mining laser thing and was just I'm slapping this on the truck, the flatbed of the truck, to make it into a mounted machine gun kind of thing. And we all got very silly at that point. And that was the point at which that game got really fun for me. Granted, that was 3 hours in. It's not that I hadn't been having fun up to that point. It's just the character I had built wasn't that useful up until that point. Is that fair?
Yeah.
But no, again, I had fun. It was pretty much exactly what I expected.
It was a little bit more expensive at $10, but it was a 5-hour game.
Yes. Again, if you're averaging $2 an hour, I was kind of okay with that, which again goes to my previous point of this was nominally a fully booked table. 60% of the players did not turn up, and they paid $10 each to not play. So, but again, mostly it was fun to just kind of chat with the other people around the table about various RPG systems and that kind of stuff. And, the guy across the table from me clearly adores Starfinder, which was great.
Yeah, it is interesting because Pathfinder, the Pathfinder and Starfinder Society have a very interesting system, which is how they're able to get so many GMs of how your characters in that system level up if you want a character that you just own and not a character that's built for a certain module. And explain a little bit about that. I don't know tons about it.
Yeah, it's basically you can register a character officially with them through your account, and once you complete a session, they give you information you use to fill in information on the website to increase, to give the character extra stuff, and you can take that character from there and move them over to the next session you play. And it gets a bit weird if you're playing so the person on the opposite side of the table was level 4, and as a result of finishing that game, he would get to be level 5, which he said was really good because he was booked to play a level 5 to 8 game the next day. Now, if you have a character who you really want to play who's currently not high enough level for another game at an event, you can, like, it's described as like playing it out temporarily out of sync or something, where you basically get like a flash forward to your character's future, and you like play them at a higher level, get some stuff, but you don't actually get to apply it to them until after you've reached the point where it should have taken place in their timeline. It's kind of complicated and kind of weird, but in a way that the sort of people who are into this really do enjoy. So yeah, like it's more okay. If I wanted to go to a bunch of different conventions and play the same game over and over again, this is a phenomenal way to do it.
Yes.
I don't want to do that, which is why I was quite happy just turning up with a character I made literally the night before, have fun with it, and just have a blast. Like again, I rammed a bad guy with a car and got to roll 14d6 worth of damage.
Yeah.
That's fun. Like,
it
again,
is.
as the GM said, with how much health that guy had, him surviving was impossible. Like, even if every one of those d6s had rolled a 1, it would still have killed him.
Yeah, but rolling them's fun.
Yeah, especially as I bought a bunch of d6s in the vendor store the previous day, it was just like, oh, sweet.
Yeah, we realize that most games we do, like a lot of games, if a game's not a D20 based system, it's a D6 based system. Like that is just default. There are a lot of D6 based systems, which makes sense because a lot of RPGs, especially these days, are trying to be RPGs that like people who aren't RPG players can play.
Yep.
And people who are not RPG players, if they have any dice, it's 6-sided dice.
Yep.
So
D6s just kind of work for a lot of games. So I deliberately bought a bunch to use in the Dragon Age thing if I ever get around to running it at a con. But again, it was fun to just roll 14d6 of damage, and I think this guy who had I think in his base he had 12 HP, and he took 45 damage because the GM was like, "Oh, he's going to die. I just want to know how badly."
It's always fun when that happens, and it's great when you can have that epic game moment.
Yeah. And he was just like, "Thank you for giving me a story I can tell one of my friends who insists that the ace pilot is the worst of the options because piloting is useless in the game. Because again, piloting is and driving are the same skill. It's just piloting. So again, that was very stupid and very fun, and we had a blast with it. So I very much enjoyed that. I do find it telling that there was $30 worth of game tickets there that vanished up into the ether.
And I will say that the Pathfinder / Starfinder Society is a good way for you don't have a group to have a campaign with if you just kind of want to do a campaign by going to conventions and playing games there, or some of game shops and stuff like that do Pathfinder Starfinder nights where just GMs show up and run adventures. And if that's your thing and that's the only way you can play a game that you love, or it's just your favorite way of playing that game, that's pretty awesome.
It is. And again, when I say they're running modules, some of the modules are deliberately pieces of a longer story. So if you want to actually deliberately set it up such that you were doing the parts of a storyline, I'm 90% sure you could have done that. It would have taken some finagling of your schedule, but I'm 90% sure it was doable. So yeah, again, it was fun. It was interesting chatting with those guys, and I would do it again at another con. Again, I wouldn't go to the trouble of creating a specific character to take along every time. I would just make another new character.
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind doing one of those games with you at some point. It's not my fandom or anything, or my world, but again, I've played Pathfinder, Starfinder's the same system. I'm sure I could find something to enjoy about it. So
yeah. Again, it's not quite the same. It's got a
I know it's the same system with a different skin.
Yeah, it's close enough that if you know how to play one, it won't take it that long to pick up the other. The differences are mostly in like the exact details of the character.
Yeah, I'll admit I'm not I played Pathfinder before the revamp that happened a couple of years ago, and I'm just not a fan of like how my favorite character class got moved in the revamp. So
which one was your favorite?
Oracle.
Okay. What happened to oracles?
Mostly they got rid of all the good curses, and now it's just these 3 extremely boring ones. And I'm just like, the whole point of the Oracle is the curse. That's the flavor. Why did you downgrade that so much? That has been my soapbox.
So, fun fact. Pathfinder, Starfinder 2nd Edition just came out. We were doing 1st edition. The guy across the table from me had basically the exact same rant about the mechanic.
Really?
Yeah, the mechanic. the mechanic apparently, which is it's kind of the tech-focused class. Apparently, he was complaining that like all of the good feats that made his character interesting have been removed from 2nd edition.
Is that the same character class?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that a different character class? I don't know what the crossover is.
So the mechanic would be, I have no idea how you would describe it. But they are usually a pet class because they've usually got a drone who does the like heavy lifting for them, or the heavy shooting. So I don't know what the Pathfinder equivalent of that would be. Maybe one of the Rangers or something like that.
Yeah.
But again, they are the one who's going to have like all the tech and engineering skills, basically. But no, again, like I just found it deeply amusing that like you two were having basically the exact same complaint of we've gone to a new edition and they've removed some of the fun stuff.
Well, again, like what is great about 5e is like a system is like it took the best stuff from Pathfinder and made it really good for the most part, except for the Ranger, but whatever.
They fixed the Ranger eventually.
I'm still not sure they've completely fixed the Ranger.
The Ranger's still a bit, but again, the thing about 5e is for most of them it feels like somebody who liked the character class wrote the rules for the class.
And there's not like a character class, and I think Pathfinder had this problem. I think D&D had this problem for just years. There are some character classes that are just straight up worse to play because they felt that the system needed character classes that were worse than other character classes for some reason. 5e stops that, which I think is good. And I think probably Pathfinder, or the new edition of Pathfinder and Starfinder, probably also stopped doing that, but they did it in such a way where they kind of had to nerf certain character classes, and that's going to tick people off. So.
Like, again, it is entirely possible to build completely broken characters in both Pathfinder and Starfinder. Because, again, the more complex you make the system, the more easy it is for somebody to find something that probably shouldn't work that way, but technically does.
Whereas in 5e, the system just breaks for all characters once you get about above level 12.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a reason why Baldur's Gate 3 capped at 12.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was my Starfinder game. Again, I had fun. Yep. At one point, I messaged you to tell you that we'd pulled a Cleveland and set the river on fire.
Yeah, I think I messaged you at some point and was like, yeah, how's your game going? Because we were on break for our game. And you were like, good. And I'm like, great. And they were like, how's yours going? And I was like, we haven't started yet.
And you were 2.5 hours in at that point.
Yeah.
You guys were still world building. But we are almost at our second stop for...
so I will talk more about this because it was a kind of complex saga with a 6-hour game. I did have fun. Short version of that.
But yeah, we will pause our recording and get some food and then be right back.
Bye.
Bye. All right, we have the thing we needed.
We do.
Yay. So, now we're up to your part of the story.
Okay, this one's going to be an interesting one. So this, again, was a 6-hour game. I did not know what to expect. It's unusual for a game to be this long. It's called What Happens If I Can't Check My Space When I Get There. It's a game using the Monster Heart system, which is powered by the Apocalypse, so it's extremely similar to all of the other powered by the Apocalypse systems. Uses strings, which are like ways to manipulate characters. And it's a game about monster ducking without the D. Your monsters are with the D, if you know what I'm saying. Actually, not because most of the characters are lesbians.
I'm just rolling my eyes. It's fine.
Yep.
Please continue.
It's its own system. It's like Monster. I can't really tell. It's still a bit confusing to me up playing this game how much of the horror elements are actually supposed to be there. But this was set in a high school. You all play monsters, and you just kind of play off each other and the other characters in the school. and you just go around, and it's pretty much drama storytelling, which I love. So I got to the table first. I think you left pretty much before anyone else got there.
Yep, nobody else had arrived by the time I left.
And saw a bunch of characters. This person had clearly created a lot of character sheets themselves based on like all of the famous horror movies, some of which I did not know. I'm not a really big horror movie buff, so I just picked a character based on vibes mainly. So I picked a character that had the power to like do puppet master and manipulate who was in the next scene together. I'm like, well, that's fun. So I picked that character, and it was cool, and they were good at the power. So, and all of these were again created, and their like power ups were created. And again, in this game, there's not really the characters were created. I think pretty homebrew by the person who was making them. I think there were skins of the various like types of skins that are in the game because the characters are called skins in those games because they're monsters. So there's like a Dracula type. I didn't really see any of the types directly, and I'm told that some stuff was modified, but it was fun. So I was some weird April Fool's horror movie. Girl boss likes playing pranks. I just kind of made my own character concept of being like kind of a girl boss type bully type thing, which was cute. Some of the other characters came and played. As you can expect from this type of system, there was one token straight guy at this table, and he's the type of guy who does doll reviews on YouTube, which we don't judge straight men who do doll reviews on YouTube. That it just means that they're awesome people.
I mean, again, I swung by your game after my Starfinder game ended, and when you told me later in the day that that guy was, good lord, okay, when you told me that that guy was straight, my response was, really?
To clarify, when he sat down at the table, he apologized for being the token straight guy. That's how I know he's straight. I did not ask directly. That would have been a rude thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, like this guy was very queer coded for somebody who's straight, but again,
straight people can be queer coded.
Yeah,
gender is just clothes.
Exactly.
So the game was a little bit slow to get started. We got started about 30 minutes late, just because I sat down. Somebody else sat down next to me. Again, I'm trying to avoid saying names of particular people. There were a lot of characters to sort through. It took her a while to choose a character. It took me a while to choose a character. The third person sat down. The straight queer-coded guy you were talking about.
Yep.
Hopefully he does not mind that. He chose a character, and then the GM just began explaining. I'm like, well, there's no way this is going to last 6 hours with 3 people. This was about like 10, 20 minutes after. Then another couple showed up. Both used she, her pronouns, also valid. But they were, I think, dating or married based on context. And they chose their characters and were cool with like waiting. Again, keep in mind, this was Saturday at 2 p.m. at like an incredibly busy con. Getting anywhere at this time period is impossible. Yeah. So,
like, there's a reason why I left half the stuff with you, so that I wasn't trying to like barge my way through.
The reason they were late is they were legitimately like this was their first game of the day, and they were it took them forever to find parking.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah. And then, just as we were about to start again, another person showed up. So we started about 30 minutes late. 6-hour game, not a big deal. And I was having fun just kind of talking and vibing with people. So then we spent 2.5 hours world building, talking about the school, the setting, what we wanted to do. The GM admitted that they didn't really have a plan, and they also, I guess, to their credit, knew themselves. I do think they use him, he pronouns, but I'm going to try to use they just in case. They admitted they were a GM who liked to take their time and let the story just kind of develop in their own particular way. And because it was something for which we didn't have like a plot or a setting, I think they just wanted the story to play out naturally based on how long it took us, which it took us a while. So we spent like 2-ish hours building the world, and they asked a bunch of questions about like where we wanted it set, an old girls' school, what type of the campus were like, what are some details and minutia about the world, so we could pull them out later. And we didn't wind up using all of them, and it was pretty involved, but no one was bored. I wasn't bored either. It was fun, and I was enjoying the other people at the table, and particularly because this is a game where like sex is just part of the game. Like sex is in this game. It's a game with sex mechanics. It's definitely plus 18, and we did check to make sure everyone at the table was plus 18 before we started.
Yep.
And the characters were all, also despite being high schoolers, 18. It was senior year. The GM said that was like a hard rule, and we all agreed. And we're like, also they're monsters and kind of just ageless generally, just to make it clear. And all the teachers are 25 because shenanigans. That's still kind of problematic, but way less problematic than it could be.
Yeah.
And you're all also monsters, at least sort of vaguely. So yeah, the people who were interested in this game were people who were interested in Monster High, which is a doll franchise and also like a TV show that spun off to sell more toys of the doll franchise. If you're not familiar, with the most amazing shoes and dolls ever, so I can understand why a doll enthusiast was at this game. For me, it was just like, okay, this is a teen sex drama with monsters. I'm in.
Yeah, that ticks a lot of your boxes.
Yep. And queer coded. So yeah. Although, so we did that for about 2.5 hours. Sorry if I'm rambling a little bit.
No, this is the point.
I know. And then we started to play. So the GM did have X like on the table because it's a game involving sex. And as I mentioned before, this is a Powered by the Apocalypse game, so you can use your strings to make your characters have sex with other characters. In a universe that's not rape, it's your character being compelled to have sex with other characters and it consenting. You're just using mechanics to make the consent happen, which is a little weird and is something you probably should talk a little bit more about before you're playing the game. I'm not going to lie. But that said, the X was there, and I do think if the X had been tapped for that, I just would have been honored completely. Because, again, your character is not you, and you might want your character to, like, or you might want your character to fight something, but it's different than you personally fighting it. And
yes.
I do think knowing that table of players had that come up, just like, I do not feel comfortable with this, no one would have made their character have sex with another character. But it is something for which you probably need to have more deep conversations about. And I do feel like designers of this game system and Powered by the Apocalypse generally, now that they're making more games that are just more blatantly sexual as opposed to subtly sexual, need to probably have more in their rulebook about how to handle the fact that you can make someone else's character have sex with your character. Just to kind of make a little bit more safety in there. But that said, it didn't really come up in the game at all. It's just something I've been kind of thinking about since playing it. So again, general high school shenanigans. Me and 2 other players at the table were kind of a little bit more dominant. The other 3 were kind of a little bit more hung back, but everyone seemed to be having fun and having a good time. And it is, I do think, even though the 2-hour world building session I really don't think was like necessary, it was fun. And also in a game where you're being pretty sexually explicit monsters, like having a time period where you're out of character to get everyone's vibes and get comfortable with everyone at the table, given how sexually explicit this game is a really important thing to do. Because it gives you a chance to kind of feel each other out, get more comfortable at the table, and get more comfortable with your characters, like hitting on each other and stuff like that. Because even in other games that are romance games where characters are hitting on each other, this is a lot more sexually explicit and goes a lot further. So I do think that that's somewhat needed, and although not always feasible, an important choice by the character design and stuff like that.
That makes sense.
So then we started playing. Generally, somebody asked about the vibes of the games. It was like comedy but emotional, so we just took it as stereotypical like teen drama stuff. It's a game where there's like a lot of emotional development and relationships between characters and not a lot of plot. Like the most that happened was I took another girl's like notebook. That was a big subplot. One girl was trying to get her friend's parents to like her. That was a big subplot. One girl had like a crush on a guy kind of subplot, like all pretty basic teen stuff, but stuff that is very fun to RP, particularly with monsters and over-the-top dramatic characters. And I was having a blast. I think you should have at one point.
Yes. So again, my Starfighter game probably ended about 4 o'clock. So no, not 4 o'clock. Ended after like about 4 hours, which again, smaller table. I'm not surprised it ran a little short. That's absolutely fine. Like I do not have a problem with that. So I went and grabbed myself some food, and then kind of came to check on you. And I'll let you know I was on my way.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Go ahead.
So I basically just kind of grabbed a seat at the table next to you guys because there was nobody using it at that point. Because I knew I was going to be heading downstairs to the 7 o'clock game in in about half an hour or so. So I didn't want to disturb you guys. You shenaniganed me into joining you guys for a bit.
Well, I will say that the GM was pretty honest about the fact that this was a 6-hour game where they were just like, yeah, this game is 6 hours. I understand that not everyone's going to want to play the game for 6 hours. So if you just want to leave, like, that's fine. Heck, if you want to go to the vendor's hall to make a purchase and come back, I'll just move your characters in and out accordingly. Like, they were very, like, comfortable with that. And I think that that's fair and valid for a 6-hour game.
Yeah.
And honestly, a format I don't mind at a con. And I think that's why this was an 8-seated table. I think we had 6. 6, I think, was the right number. 8 would have been too much. But I do get, like, I think the GM's thinking, and I can kind of sort of get this, is if you get 6, or if you have 8, 6 will probably show up. And some people might need to leave for various reasons if you have a 6-hour game. So I do kind of get that. I do think it wound up working. But I was like, well, if he's cool with that, he's probably cool, or they were probably cool with my husband joining the game. I should have checked with you about that first rather than pushing you into doing it. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Because I was just having so much fun and I wanted you to have fun.
Yeah.
I know that it's not easy to join a game halfway through when everyone else has a vibe, particularly a game that's that sexually explicit.
Yeah, like I was very deer in the headlights there. Like everybody else was making a game effort to include me, but I had no idea what the heck I was doing.
That's fair, and I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You did have a great moment, though, that, like, spurred the plot along, because you played a character that, like, brought an axe down in the middle of the scene. Then you just left, which was great.
Yep.
Your character had sex after that.
Of course they did.
Which was weird that the first sex of that game was so heteronormative.
Yeah, but again, like, I could tell you guys were having an absolute blast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, like, I suspect if I'd been in it from the start, I would have had fun. Mm. But at the same time, I'm glad I got to go off and do my own thing. Like, again,
It's also, like, I admit a gay, mostly lesbian-coded sex game is probably more my speed than it is your speed.
Yes.
Like, quite a bit.
Yeah, whereas, sci-fi, adventure, dungeon crawling, with a character I designed, I very explicitly designed off Lara Croft, that's kind of more my vibe. And again, like, one of the things that we have been trying to, like, figure out is to what degree we want to play games together and to what degree we want to split up.
Yeah.
Which, again, is always one of the questions if you're doing an event like this with a friend, with a partner, whatever. Like, to what degree do you want to be together and to what degree do you want to be apart? Mm-hmm. Because I think it is good to have shared interests at a con like this. Like, there are plenty of games that you and I did together that we absolutely loved. Mm-hmm. And there are other games that, like, again, there are some games that I would want to play that you don't care about and vice versa. And that's okay. And it's about figuring out exactly where that balance is.
Yeah. And I am glad I did this alone. It was, I will admit, an emotionally intense game generally. There were a lot of really high highs, but it is a game about sex, and that is just emotional, even in RP. Not because, like, you're trying to romance players at the table, just because it's intimate. Mm-hmm. And it is an intimate experience. So at one point during the game, just because there was a lot of crosstalk at this game, scenes going on at the same time. Sometimes the GM would just walk away from the table and we would have a scene for a while, which I think you also noticed.
Yeah, I noticed that at least once.
At one point the GM was trying to get me to pay attention and, like, snapped their fingers at me, which they didn't do to anyone else, which made the girl who I was flirting in game with across the table from me check to make sure I was okay, because she thought that was kind of rude, which it probably kind of was, but I didn't really register it. But it did kind of make me feel a bit weird later, and I'm going to try to tell this in a way that's fair to everyone. So towards the end of the game, there started to be more horror elements added, which I'll admit I was kind of annoyed by, because one, we only had an hour left. It wasn't a horror game up until that point, and I just kind of wanted to close up plot lines with people, because I wanted my character and the girl who kind of wanted to have sex with me character to have sex. I really wanted a cool, cute scene like that, and I didn't want it to be interrupted by this horror thing. I didn't say that, but maybe I should have. And then that led to there being, like, a weird chase runaway scene at the end, which was a death roll mechanic that was just instant saber suck. You roll to escape or you roll to die. In this game, you don't really die. You become, like, your darkest self. But I didn't want that ending for my character. I do not like instant roll death mechanics because it feels like control of a character I built, particularly control of a character I built in a game where sex is involved. I didn't want dice to control my fate at that point. So I hit the X button. I was like, I would prefer if I didn't have to roll, and I just ran away. The GM would not accept that as an answer, which is not how an X mechanic works. Now, I want to be fair to this GM. I think they were caught up in the moment. The game had overrun its 6-hour time slot somehow by that point. I think just because we were all having so much fun. But I was saying no to something and somebody wasn't accepting my no. And that was hard emotionally for me for a couple of reasons. Because X in a game is supposed to be like, you stop. And keep in mind that hitting the X button in a game is actually kind of a hard thing to do, or saying no in a game is kind of a hard thing to do because it does stop the action, and you don't want to ruin anyone else's good time with like your triggers or your stuff. I needed to stop at this point, and GM, I think it was just miscommunication. I do not think they were being malicious. I do think they recognized that they probably should have handled that differently afterward. They didn't really apologize to me, but they did check to make sure I was okay. Kind of preferred if they apologized to me.
Sorry.
And it was just something that was a little bit emotionally intense in a way that was more frustrating because I was still having fun and felt kind of embarrassed, but it did kind of trigger an emotional response in me because, again, you're saying no to something in a context where that should be respected, and it wasn't. I think I want to be charitable more to miscommunication than anything else. Like, I think the GM thought I was concerned about dying, even though I didn't really die in this game, and was trying to, like, encourage me to do it anyway, even though I just kind of wanted a happy ending for my character, who didn't wind up getting a happy ending anyway, because the one character who did die had to pursue her bully, and they were like, well, who's the bully at the table, expecting everyone to point to me, even though the other players at that time period were like, she clearly doesn't want attention on her right now, let's maybe just leave her alone. But they kept pursuing it at that point. I don't think we're really reading my signals very well. Again, I want to be charitable. They were trying to manage an ending of a game. I don't feel like it needed that horror element basically at all. I do think that was a situation where they did misstep, but I do think that that was accidental, and I do hope that's a situation they can learn from in the future. I think that's a fair way to put it.
I think so.
But I don't think they were intentionally trying to hurt me.
No. Like, again, I wasn't there for that because by that point I'd gone downstairs to our 7 o'clock game, or the 7 o'clock game. But
like, it was just an emotionally vulnerable thing, and it was also a frustrating emotionally vulnerable thing, because I didn't want to be emotionally vulnerable at that moment. I wanted to be happy, because I had a blast. And I'm still, I think, reconciling those kind of emotional highs with that kind of vulnerable feeling. And I'll be clear, it's still a game. It's not like this was, like, a no in a context of an actual, like, sexual thing at all. It's not. But it's still you saying no and somebody not respecting that, and that's not okay. It wasn't purposeful, but it was still something that somebody shouldn't have done.
Yeah. I think that's fair. And again, I can't speak to the specific situation. I wasn't there, but I get it.
I'm not naming this GM. Like, they don't deserve that, and I highly doubt that anyone who listens to this will bully them or anything, but they shouldn't. It was a mistake. Mistakes happen. It was just kind of an unfortunate situation.
Yeah.
And we all make mistakes with people, like sometimes even big ones, and unfortunately that just kind of happened in that situation. It's mostly just hard because I really just find myself wishing that I just rolled the goddamn dice, because even if I had died, it would have been less emotional than whatever this is. So yeah. Emma's asleep and it's cute. But I still had a blast in that game. I still do think that GM is a good GM. I'm just hoping they can learn from that experience moving forward. And like, I hope that GM keeps running that game because it was a blast. And I also wanted to shout out the player who was the girl I was flirting with. I'm not going to name her either because she's definitely not consenting to that. But she helped me through that situation and talked to me afterwards and kind of calmed me down, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
So while I was having that happen, you were upstairs playing
Downstairs.
Downstairs.
So you were on floor 3 for this one, and then I was just downstairs on floor 2 of the JW Marriott, I believe.
Yeah.
Which, fun fact, there is both a Marriott and a JW Marriott. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, the tickets, if you had something at the JW Marriott, just said JW on, which was super helpful for knowing where you had to go. Good job, GenCon. But yeah, so the particular game in question was, you're going to have to help me with the full title.
I'll see if I can pull it up. Wake up, Emma. She was sleeping on my phone.
It's Revenge of the Scuba Diving Zombie something at Bikini Beach?
Something like that. Let's see if we can get it. So yeah, why don't you just explain? So we picked this game. I was excited about this because it mentioned Total Drama Island, which is one of my favorite like shows when I was a kid. Which is basically like a parody reality show for like teenagers about being trapped on an island, except it's just fake teenager. It's very silly and it's very fun. And it also like had B movie stuff, which I know you love B movie stuff.
I'm a sucker for a bad B movie. Like, here's the thing: I'm the kind of person who will, happily watch terrible movies just with friends to laugh at them.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you and I don't tend to do that much because, like, you just. I found you have trouble enjoying bad movies generally.
I like bad movies if they're in a context where it's a group of friends, they're getting drunk, and they can make fun of it.
Yeah.
It's just that's kind of hard to do when it's just us.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
Like you and Jake can do that, and I know you can do a good job of it, but that's just not the relationship we've built personally.
Yeah, that's fair. Jake is a friend of mine from back in the UK who, incidentally,
they decided they wanted a dog on Friday, so on Saturday they went out and purchased a dog.
Yep. So they now have a dog. Whereas we have been like, we are contemplating getting buddies, and the process has taken us like over a month so far, and we're at least another couple of months away from actually like finalizing anything. Whereas he's just like, no, I fancy having a dog again because he had one when he was younger. He hasn't had one for a bit. I love that dude, but his decision-making process is fascinating to me.
See, I messaged you on how this was going because the game was overrunning and I was getting, like, I was still having fun at that point before the last thing happened, but I also, like, wanted to make sure I wasn't missing out on the super awesome time downstairs, which I don't think I really was.
You weren't.
I'm trying to be nice about this game, but I was not in most of it, so I don't know how nice you want to be.
So I'm going to be honest, I was bored by this game, like a lot. And I don't feel like I should have been with a concept like that.
Yeah, it was just one of those things. And again, I really want to pull up the description, but the website's not working right now, where it's just a game that really didn't seem to match the description that was on the website.
Yeah.
Because it mentioned Total Drama Island. As far as I could tell, that element wasn't involved at all.
Not at all.
I can't really even tell the B movie element was at all.
The B movie element wasn't so far as the setup was like... So the basic setup of this was that sometime in the past, there was an attack on Bikini Island by a bunch of scuba zombies. They're just they came out of the water, a bunch of people died, it was a bad time, it was B-movie stuff. And this is like 20 years later, and this is going to be the revenge of the killer scuba zombies on Bikini Island. So you're a bunch of characters who, some of you were involved in the past incidents, some of you weren't. He basically let us all, go around the table and say whether or not we were involved in that.
So yeah, the full title is Revenge of the Undead Scuba Diving Zombies at Bikini Beach.
Thank you.
And you want me to give the full description?
You might as well, because I'm curious to know how much of it I agree with.
They Came from Beneath the Sea is a dramatic and farcical tabletop role-playing game encompassing wonder, horror, and thrills, and the humor of the 1950s and 60s. Are the characters human or under attack? The attackers, monsters from beneath the sea, obviously. In this game, your protagonists are strong-jawed war veterans, cunning and resourceful explorers, and utterly insane scientists. Blue-collar heroes just looking to defend their patches of land. The teen stars of the reality TV show Total Drama Island stage a reunion party at Bikini Beach. Campfires blaze as the sun sets, hot dogs and marshmallows, and what is that glowing green stuff? So I assumed the cast of Total Drama Island would be there.
They were not.
Okay, yeah, that doesn't seem like that part happened at all.
Not at all.
Cool.
So he basically presented us with a bunch of character sheets. And we also got a piece of paper with a bunch of actors on it. He basically said, "This is kind of who I'm picturing as being cast in this movie." So I picked Salty Bob, the retired. The sheet said retired U.S. Navy veteran. I basically said, "Do you mind if I change that to Royal Navy?" And he said, "Yep, absolutely. Feel free to make any tweaks like that you want to." I said, "Cool." Who was nominally played by Sean Connery in the movie, so obviously I was doing the Sean Connery voice. Well, I did for the small amount of dialogue I ended up having. But you know, but yeah, so Total Drama Island was not in any capacity.
Which is why I picked it. I was excited about the Total Drama Island aspect of it. Like I thought you would like the B movie aspect of it, and I thought I would like the Total Drama Island aspect of it.
And this particular rule set, which is the rule set is it came from beneath the waves or whatever the opening line of the description was, uses a similar system to Vampire the Masquerade. So it's all D10s, and it's an 8 or a 9 is a success, and a 10 is 2 successes. And you're going to be rolling a bunch of them at any given time.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like the more I think back on this, the more this is kind of screaming like older men who want to play war games more so than anything else.
Not really. Like,
Okay.
The system itself was perfectly fine.
Wait, it's a naval battle system.
No, it's not.
Okay, sorry, maybe that's just what you're saying.
No, I didn't. What do you mean by?
I meant it seems like a system just because it has the sea in it that's specifically designed for being played on water.
No.
Okay.
What I mean, like the system is called like it came from beneath the waves.
So that sounds like a naval system. I'm not gonna lie.
No, it is designed for like Cthulhu-inspired stuff. You know, like zombie-inspired, like
Sorry,
zombies
I hate
from
Cthulhu,
beneath.
everyone.
You know, zombies from beneath the waves, kind of stuff. Like again, it's Creature from the Black Lagoon, that kind of vibe. Like it is designed explicitly for this, like for making your own B movie, and it actually has some stuff in common with. It came from the Late 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 Show. Like he actually referenced that as a thing. You know, and he's like, if you've played that, you'll recognize a few of the mechanics. Like you can call for a stunt double.
Cool. That sounds fun. Like,
Yeah,
that sounds really fun.
Nobody ever
I'm
used
confused as to why it's less fun.
And like each character has quips.
Yep.
And if you can deploy your quip at an appropriate moment, and whether or not it was an appropriate moment is voted on by the rest of the table, then you can like get bonus dice and things like that. Like you know, so one of my characters' quips was, I said I wanted to get back to the ocean. I didn't mean it like this, and stuff like that. So I don't actually have a single problem with the system, but the story that the GM was telling, there wasn't a lot of like encouragement to roleplay. Like nobody really got into character,
which seems ridiculous given that it's like a late con show inspired, which is a game that's about role playing and acting.
Like there was relatively little like in character dialogue, relatively little like talking to the other players in character, and we kind of got onto the combat way faster than I was anticipating. Like I was expecting there to be some actual build up. But no, we were starting to get attacked by like zombie sharks with legs pretty early on. And I'm going to be honest, that system just isn't a great combat system. You know, again, it's perfectly fine and functional, but...
Yeah, I can't imagine Late Night Con Show or something being based off it would be. Like, again, this just seems like... I don't think even the GM understood how to play the game.
Again, it's mostly just... It was another one that wasn't quite what I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted fun, silly B movies.
Yeah, that's what I think I thought it was when I was signing up, and I wanted Total Drama Island stars who weren't even there. Maybe they just accidentally played another adventure or something. I do think a different table could have carried that well.
Yeah.
You just happened to be at a table with people who mostly just wanted to roll combat dice for whatever reason.
Yeah. And again, like, I don't know. Again, I definitely wasn't in the right headspace, not even like when it started, just like I very quickly realized it wasn't what I wanted it to be. And at that point, I think I kind of gave up a bit. Like
That's fair, I can get that.
Like I could have tried to like force more RP into it, but
I think part of the problem is like, and this is the kind of downside of us being at separate tables, is when we're together, we can handle that situation a lot better.
Yeah, because we can play off each other.
We can play off each other, we can pivot, and we can kind of talk it through each other with each other being next to each other.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're by yourself, like you have no one to RP with, and you can't really like game plan with the person next to you about how you want to handle a game not being what you turn it to be. Because like Familiar's Trouble was also a game that wasn't we thought it was going to be, but because we were next to each other earlier that day, I think we were able to rally a lot more and still enjoy it.
Yeah.
Mostly by pointing out how stupid we thought the system was.
Yeah, during the bio break, we did kind of go,
To be clear, if you like really crunchy systems and that is your favorite thing ever, congratulations, that game is great for you.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, as somebody who doesn't like a crunchy system, it's ridiculously, needlessly complex in a way that's just kind of funny.
See,
but I feel like the people who play that know that.
See, the weird thing is, I love crunch in a character creator. I love a character creator that is deep and has an insane amount of options, and you can like come up with a really weird concept and make it work. I love character creators like that. The actual moment-to-moment gameplay I like to be as simple as possible, which I know is kind of a weird, this doesn't quite compute. But yeah, again, that's just kind of how I like my RPGs.
Well, with character creating, it's primarily a solo thing, so you're not bogging other people at the table down by creating your character. Like, you can take as much time as you want. Like, sometimes you do it as a group, but for the most part, once you know how to make a character in the system, you do it by yourself, so you can just enjoy being with your character for a bit. Whereas in a game, if something's crunchy, it just slows everything down.
Like, again, I'm going to be, at some point, I'm planning to make a an all-orc Rogue Trader one-shot, and Rogue Trader, its character creator is crunchy and takes a while, but I've done it so many times that I can create high-level characters pretty quickly, and just I'm looking forward to building a bunch of stupid orc characters based on like classic, archetypes.
Nice.
Thank you. Like, I'm looking forward to doing that, and I'm hoping I will have the opportunity to at some point in the near future. It's mostly I haven't found a fillable PDF yet, which means I'll have to do them by hand, which means I've got to write them in such a way that other people can read my handwriting, and anyway, that's a problem for a later day.
So I basically showed up. I also was like running on a little patience, just because that was an emotionally, like, that game was what I wanted to be. It was a big risk. I was really excited to play it, and then it just kind of had that bad moment at the end, which I've been still kind of trying to not let ruin my game experience because of how good it was. And I was trying to deal with those emotions, which was emotionally complex. So I had to pull you over, explain what just happened, because again, it is a little bit violating. And that triggered a bio break at your table, which is fine. But then when I got back to the table, I was just like, immediately like, this is not for me at all. The vibes of this are completely off. No one is explaining to me how to play. Not that that's their job. I don't want to do this. And then I think we just kind of left.
Yeah, like I was not sad when you were just like not feeling it.
Yep.
Because again, like,
I mean, again,
I hadn't been having fun.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. Like, that game just was not what I wanted it to be, and I wasn't in the headspace where I could, like, pivot and either force it to be what I wanted or just sit back and enjoy it. Like, I'd been bored. I'd been actively checking my phone at several points in that game up until that point.
Which, again, I don't think I was bored all weekend during the game. Like, maybe, like, slightly during some combat rounds, but, like, if you're that bored, like... So...
And again,
I mean, I do think I would have tried had that like ending part not happened, and I just left early. But like, had I left early, I would have been disappointed to be leaving a really good game for a game that I don't think was to either of our taste.
No, again, it was very disappointing.
In that one way, I suppose that thing happening was a good thing, because it did give us an excuse to get out of there and not play a game we didn't like for 2 more hours.
So yeah, like, again, I think that game with a different GM, I think that game could have been fun. It was just, he and I were just on different wavelengths of what we wanted out of it.
And like, the description does make it sound like it's an RP heavy B movie scenario.
Yes.
You're doing stuff where if there is combat, it's like hijinksy.
Yeah. Whereas again, we got to the combat a lot faster than I was expecting, and I assumed that was going to be like some initial combat to like teach us the mechanics, and then we basically went from zombie sharks with legs to just regular zombies like 10 minutes later, and I was like, okay, I guess this is all this is going to be. Okay. So yeah, again, nothing against any of the players. It's just, it wasn't what I wanted.
It wasn't what you wanted, and like, the table didn't seem very enthusiastic. So
again, I don't know if it was just everybody was tired
Again,
or...
we've been having that problem with, I think, evening games on both Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, it's interesting. We didn't seem to have this problem with Origins. I don't know if it's just the fact that GenCon is GenCon. It's just kind of more tiring. Like, fun fact, while you were running into the store, I was idly checking Facebook, and somebody has posted in the Origins Facebook group, yes, my wife and I just finished doing Techo, and we kind of want something like lower key next year. Do you know when like hotel room blocks and tickets go on sale? I was like, yeah, that sounds like somebody who just got kind of overwhelmed at GenCon this year, and I get it. So yeah, again, I don't want to be too down on this game. It's just, it wasn't what I wanted. We basically, I just tapped and said, yo, give my character a suitably gory death.
Yep. Works for the thing. And again, the game works fine with 5 people, so I didn't feel bad with that.
Yeah.
So. Then we went home. We got an earlier night, which I think was good for everyone. We watched a little TV just back in the...
Yeah.
Frankly, after not having our power on, quite nice Airbnb.
Yeah. Oh, this Airbnb was great.
Yeah.
Like, I might actually leave them a good review.
And then, thankfully, we have our last game, which is Twinned Vines.
Yep. So again, this was the usual Sunday morning at a con, like load up the car, do all of that jazz.
Take an Emma with us.
Yep.
You were a little bit nervous, but she did well today.
She did great today. You're a good dog, Emma. Green. She's cleaning herself.
Yep. So I didn't know what to expect with this one. Again, this was another time slot where I just kind of picked something because there wasn't anything that was like screaming to me. There was a bunch of similar stuff. But I actually really liked this.
Yeah, this was fun.
It was a high schooler game. Again, it's like a high schooler game. Where you're a gifted student at a Japanese high school who's trying to solve a mystery as part of the journalism club, which was about what I expected to be, but exceeded expectations a little bit. I'm forgetting the name of the system. Oh, it was Fate. Yeah. And I'm sure I've done Fate at some point.
I think this was my first time doing Fate. I think.
Yeah.
Unless we did it like 2 years ago and I've just forgotten about it. That's distinctly possible.
I decided to try to challenge myself by playing a Daredevil character, because I'm normally one of those players who's a little bit more timid with games where like there's any sort of death mechanic. But I decided, it's the last game of the con. If I go out in Blaze of Glory, I go out in Blaze of Glory. So, which was great because everyone else at the table was like actively trying to protect my character from doing stupid stuff.
Which was kind of funny.
Yeah. I'm just like, guys, I think I'll be okay. It's a one shot. Don't worry.
You dived out a 3rd-story window.
I did, and I survived.
Mm-hmm.
Because I rolled like a 7, which is high in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, like 8, I think, is the highest on the scale.
So yeah, Fate is a system where you roll 4 dice, and then those dice are pretty even between being dice that don't add anything, dice that add +1, dice that add -1, and you total those 2 up and have your scores, and then you have various buffs that you can also add if your character is trained in a skill. So your highest is typically like +3, you have a couple +1s there and there.
Yeah. Again, fairly simple system.
Yep.
Effective enough for what the GM was doing. And again, solid, enjoyable storyline. We got to have some good bits of character interaction. Everybody at the table was very game, which I appreciate.
Yeah. And this for me was like a really great game of a mix of RP and like an actual plot.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of games that are just straight up RP and there's not really much plot. This was a good game that was a mix of those 2 things, where everyone was having real fun playing high schoolers. And at the same time, there was still like plot in the background, and I thought the GM did a really good job of like balancing those 2 things. We would ask us questions about our characters, get us to RP. We were pretty comfortable RPing. I will say again, I think I mentioned probably earlier in this episode, as a girl, sometimes do get a little bit nervous when I sit down at a table with a bunch of guys, because I'm just like, I do not want this to be a bunch of crunch monkeys rolling dice, not doing any RP or fun stuff. This table of guys were not like that at all. They were very game to RP. Everyone seemed to have fun. It was another game where I thought, for the most part, everyone contributed about equal amounts, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Like, I definitely took a little while to get the vibe of my character, but once I did, I was...
Well, once you felt comfortable just making your character creepy.
You meant well.
You dressed somebody up in a Princess Leia gold bikini.
You're the one who designed the outfit.
Because you wouldn't let anyone else design it, because, again, at a primarily masculine presenting table, if you want to have somebody describe a sexy teenage girl, it has to be the only girl at the table.
Yeah. Whereas, again, the joke was that, like, my character who had, convinced the school, the high school student council president to, like, go to the dance with him. And it was a Halloween-themed dance. And, like, he'd gone in, like, this costume from this ultra-obscure TV show that only he remembered, and he was super happy that he could convince somebody to go with him and wear the appropriate, matching costume. It was funny. And again, like, I was going to go risque with it, but you're the one who pushed it into full on, like, Princess Leia bikini off Temu.
Well, that was funny.
Yeah, it was.
People knew what I was talking about.
Yep. So yeah, like, again, this game was a lot of fun. It was relatively light, relatively fluffy. I think the GM said it's getting kickstarted soon to actually get released. Because I get the impression... So there was a lot of unanswered questions, which implies to me that this is kind of intended to be like one part of an ongoing saga.
Yeah, because they mentioned that the I don't know if you noticed, but the monster had to go through a portal at the end. Pretty classic type stuff. Like mentioned that her mother would come through later.
Yeah, like her mother would potentially be following her. So, again, there were definitely a bunch of plot hooks left unresolved, but this felt like one episode of an ongoing TV show in a good way. I'm happy with that. I had fun.
Yeah. My one criticism is it does take place in a Japanese high school. They were a little light on the Japanese elements. Like, it could have just taken place in any high school.
Yeah.
Which, again, is fine. Like, none of us are Japanese, so we probably shouldn't be, like, assuming too much about Japanese culture in a way that's not overly tropey. Yeah. But I just don't... I'm not sure where that element is there. It probably is because I imagine the monsters and stuff like that draw on Japanese lore. My primary guess.
I suspect so, but again, I would need to read the extended stuff to know. I think it's also just, like, the Japanese do go in for boarding schools a little bit more than America does, which I think was part of the point, because it was set at effectively a boarding school. But again, like, it was good. I enjoyed it. I don't know if there's, like, that much to say beyond that.
And I actually had a lot of fun with this one. Like, way more than I expected to. It was a great way to kind of cap the con, and it's really nice that we started with a game that I really liked and ended with a game I really liked.
So at that point, we actually met up with Betty, which we'd been trying to do since Wednesday night without
I'm not surprised it took us this long. We were also supposed to play a game of Passion of Passions with our friend Briggs.
Yep.
But his houseboat didn't sink, but the barge that, like, carried his electricity and also did sink and took out part of the marina bridge with it, so he can't access his houseboat and doesn't have electricity in his houseboat. So yeah. And he was like, I don't think I'll be able to, like, run a game. And I'm like, that's fair.
That's valid.
Like, he sent us a literal news story about this.
And we were like, it's a funny story. Our power also got taken out last week.
Well, at least the power getting taken out by a tree is something I've heard of happening. I didn't even know that, like, barges sinking and blocking access to your houseboat was a thing that could happen. So
apparently it is.
And I bet he's, because we're in a group chat, all three of us was, like, worried that their power is going to go out.
Yep. But yeah. So yeah, we met up with Betty, and at this point it was a little after 2:00. And
Vendors Hall closed at 4.
So we figured this is the only day this con you've not worn a ball gown, specifically so you could go into the Vendors Hall. So we went in.
And I immediately challenged myself to explore the entire Vendors Hall in 2 hours. And
because you're nuts.
I don't really have much to say about that. It's what you would expect a Vendors Hall at a tabletop con to be.
Yeah.
There's people demoing tables, there's a bunch of game stalls, there's dice sellers, there's independent game developers, RPG rule list. They had a smaller section that I think was kind of a pseudo artist alley for, like, independent creators and artists. It's what you expected it was.
Yeah.
I did not need to see all of it because at a certain point it does start to look very savvy. But I challenged myself and we won.
Yeah, my arms will get real tired by the end of that because I had to carry Emma the whole time.
But we won.
Eh. We're in the wonderful world of it's not actually a competition, honey.
It was a competition with myself, which is the most important kind of competition.
Oh dear. And this is what I have to live with, ladies and gentlemen, and others.
Thank you for remembering the non-binary peeps. So that is what we did at Gen Con.
Yep.
We are not going to talk about what we didn't do.
Yeah. At that point, we basically, we bugged out and headed back to the car.
Yeah, we wanted to be traffic because we got out of the vendor hall I think 10 minutes before it closed, and we wanted to be ahead of the scrum.
Yep. Because there was going to be a scrum.
There was going to be a scrum.
Now, I'll say this. The person doing the announcements warning you that the vendors hall would soon be closing.
They were having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to describe their spiel other than,
living their best life.
No amount of perception checks or persuasion rolls will stop the vendors hall from closing at 4 p.m.
Yep, closing it, we're reaching the end now. I know it's sad, but they were living their best life. It was great. So so at that point we got on the road. We started recording this podcast like 3.5 hours ago.
Yeah, if you actually listen to all of this,
we love you. You're insane.
You could break this into parts,
That requires me to edit. I don't wanna. Mm-hmm.
Anywho,
should we talk about con highs or best?
So again, we're not going to cover what we didn't do. Look at the GenCon website. I can't possibly get into all the things.
Again, what I would say is there was a lot of stuff going on. There was game demos.
Yeah, there's what you would expect. There are game demos. There's new game releases. There's seminar for famous people. There's playing games with famous people. There was a cosplay contest somehow. I don't know how or when that happened.
God knows. There was. One thing I did notice that I found interesting was Games Workshop was running a Kill Team Live event, and I saw that, and I was just like, well, Kill Team's always live. It's a board game, or it's a miniatures skirmish war game, technically, bloody. No, apparently Kill Team Live is basically laser tag but 40k themed. Cool, sure, if that's your vibe. They also had a bunch of True Dungeon stuff.
Yeah, True Dungeon is where you can walk into a live dungeon and play D&D as though you're an actual character in it. Mm-hmm. It's not something that appeals to me, but it's also insanely expensive.
Yeah, there was some LARP stuff. There was there was a lot going on at this con. Weirdly, there were people from the university. Which university's philosophy?
University of Purdue's philosophy department were there. I don't even know what they were doing other than spreading news about Purdue's philosophy department. I did not have time to talk to them. Yeah. A lot of different tables, a lot of different things. So let's move on to top con moments.
Certainly. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I will pick Ponyhammer.
Damn you.
I'm kidding. I'm not going to pick Ponyhammer because that's your game. I will legitimately pick what happens if I check MySpace before I get there. Excluding the last hour. It was great. It was wonderful. There aren't many 6-hour games that can be that great and wonderful, and it made me really happy.
I'm actually not going to pick Ponyhammer right off the bat.
Okay. You're probably going to pick Ponyhammer soon.
Probably. But I'm going to pick a particular moment in my Starfinder game, which was after not being able to do that much, because it was a very engineering focused adventure. Insofar as a lot of the skill checks were engineering and computer use or tech use, whatever it's called, and that kind of stuff, which my character could not do. Having the moment of realizing I could just drive my vehicle into the bad guys, and the entire party just going, "Oh hell yes!" I got a double fist bump from the guy across the table when we kind of realized that, and just being able to roll a bunch of damage dice just because. Where it's yeah, he's definitely dead, but let's just see how much mist he turns into. That's the kind of stupid dice rolling moment I really enjoy. It's there is something very satisfying about rolling 14 d6s just because.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I will probably choose It's hard for me to. I'm gonna pick the Bachelor game. Like the Bachelor game was a lot of fun, particularly that moment where I was giving a speech to one of the other contestants about like what love is and how you find love, what you want love to be in your life that made you cry. Like, I was playing a straight character, which I don't often do. So like not straight in the sense of being like straight, 'cause she wasn't,
Nope.
but straight in the sense of being straight laced.
Yeah. Yeah, you normally do go a little quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm going to go to Pony Hammer. Specifically, the moment when, they explained the backstory of their Sigilite character, and somebody was like, is that Malkador's actual backstory? And I was just like, we don't, and I was just like, there's nothing that he just said that contradicts anything I know about Malkador. And, the basic response from the GM was, yeah, pretty much that. Like, we filled in some gaps, but, none of what I said would contradict. And we were just like, yep, okay. This is a room full of massive nerds. We're all on the same page. Cool. Also, the Emperor Space Marines is just too damn good a pun. Yeah.
I'm actually going to pick Twin Vines from today. I had a lot of fun. The game was a new system. I liked the system. I liked the players. It was actually a lot of fun. And specifically the moment where you guys are talking about reasons why I should not launch myself out a window. Like, well, like, would the windows in this room even open or something like that? And I'm just like, I already agreed to do this, because in Fate's a system where you, like, the GM can make you do something or offer you fate points to do stuff, which is an advantage later in the game, but you have to do something that's, like, not kind of destructive for your character. And I straight up volunteered to do this for a fate point, and I'm just like, yep, I'm doing this. Yep. While everyone else is desperately trying to come up with reasons why my character would not do this.
And you just did it. Yeah. I'm trying to think, what's going to be my third moment? Oh. So there was one particular moment when you were dressed as a pony.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even a game, but sure.
It's not, but again, it was a beautiful moment at the con where, like, a small child noticed you, wanted a picture with the pony princess, or the unicorn princess, and then, like, after the picture just hugged you, and it was the cutest thing ever.
Kids are great.
They are. Like, again, it's one of the reasons you really love just, like, being in ball gowns at conventions like this. It's because you can just, like, convince small children the magic is real, and they might just randomly bump into a princess.
I will say, we got more photos at this con than I expected to get. Like, when the hallways were, like, chocker full, we didn't, but, like, anytime there was, like, any sort of opening, we would. And we did do the smart thing, which you do with photos in crowded hallway, which you step to a side.
Yeah. Not attempt to take a photo in the middle of the hall. But yeah.
So that was GenCon.
That was, Jesus Christ, that was GenCon.
That was GenCon. We did it. We pulled it off.
We made it. We are a lot poorer now.
We're not that much poorer.
I know, but like, compared to the amount we normally spend on a con, this was an expensive one.
It was. And that's the thing you, I think, have to balance.
Yeah.
At the same time, I am proud of how well I pace myself. Granted, I feel like really tired and sick now, but I didn't feel that till now, because my body has this amazing thing where it just doesn't do that till I want it to.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder when that's going to wear off.
It's super annoying. So, yeah. What I will say is, I think it's time for us to talk about ratings.
Yep.
For anybody who's not listened to this podcast before, we don't, like, give them a grade or anything like that.
We talked about doing that, and that just seemed too mean and technical, because it's a con.
Yeah.
So instead, we rated on the system of, would we go back?
Yeah.
And keep in mind, this is a system that's entirely subjective to us.
Yes. Like, there have been plenty of cons that were good, but were also, like, a 5-hour drive and, like, not worth that.
Yeah, like, Con Alt Delete, which is in Chicago, we might go back to. But it's in Chicago, and it's 5 hours. Whereas if you're in Chicago, you should
7.
absolutely go to, 7 hours. Whereas if you're in Chicago, absolutely go to Con Alt Delete. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a 7-hour drive for us, so it's more of a maybe.
Yeah. It's and it's more expensive because of a bunch of other factors.
And
it's in Chicago.
And the last time we went, we were in an Airbnb where they wouldn't turn on the heat.
Yeah.
In winter.
Yeah. So, anywho.
So this one's a tricky one, I think.
It is. Like, I had a lot of fun.
I did.
Like, this is on par with Origins in terms of the amount of fun that I think we had.
And I do think we actually wound up getting into more events that, like, suited our taste a little bit more at this con.
I think so. But at the same time, it is significantly further away than Origins, and it's significantly more expensive because, like, we do have to get an Airbnb.
You have to get an Airbnb. Parking is insane.
Parking is, like, again, we spent over $150 on parking.
Tickets are $150.
Yep. And then you're also paying for, like,
the tickets themselves for each individual event, which is another $100.
Yeah, like we've spent over $1,000 on this con.
Which again, if for a 5-day vacation is probably about what most I would imagine people do spend for that. Cons we tend to do a little bit cheaper, but that's a lot. It's a time commitment.
Yeah.
Is it worth it? Like, I feel like I've gotten $1,000 worth of entertainment out of this con.
I would say probably.
But Origins, I can also get that amount of entertainment and not pay $1,000, and that's better.
Yeah. Which again is not even necessarily a mark against GenCon.
No.
Like, again, like with Origins, the biggest expense for us with that one is petrol because we're driving back and forth. Yeah, on top of the ticket price and everything else.
And like, it's not like a comparison in the sense that you can't go to both. It's not like they're the same weekend.
Yeah. It's not an either or choice between them we were making. And here's the thing: if it was an either or choice between them, we'd pick Origins.
Yeah.
Because again, closer, like more comfortable, etc., etc. But again, they are fairly far apart on the schedule, relatively speaking. It's like a month and a half, 2 months between the two. So, like, if we're in the country this time next year, would we do it again?
I mean, I feel like I'm more of a yes than you are.
I'm a strong maybe.
Okay.
Is the honest answer. Like, I have very much enjoyed it. It has been a good con that I have enjoyed. It's just, I do feel a little guilty about the amount of money we had to spend to do it. And like, I think in part that's just I've not been a person with disposable income for very long, which means sometimes when I spend a bunch of money together, even if it's money I have, I feel guilty about it.
Yeah, I get that. I think I went through that a couple years earlier than you did.
Yeah,
because you remember when I first moved over here, this was my first full-time job, and like, the first job that had any sort of permanency.
Yeah.
And I felt really guilty about spending money. That's starting to wear off a little bit more now. But now you're going through it, so yeah.
So yeah, again, it just, like, yes, I absolutely can spend $150 on parking, and like, I'm not happy about it, but it's a thing I can do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just, it is a little bit hard because it does really feel like this con, like, nickel and dimes in a lot of places.
Yeah. Like, again,
like, it feels like GenCon is trying to soak every drop of money they possibly can justify out of you before you say no.
Mm-hmm.
In times that makes me a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like, right down to, like, again, walking past the stalls in the hall that are doing just, like, basic grade sandwich wraps. You know, the kind of thing that should cost, like, $3 or $4 being sold for 15.
Well, that's pretty normal for pretty much all cons. But
it is, but
the stuff with the parking is not, though. Like,
no.
that is just ridiculous. Like, you need to stop doing that. Sorry.
I don't think it helps that, like, we got there on Thursday and paid, like, what was it, $30, $35?
Yeah, which was what we were told that parking lot would cost, because we met somebody, I think, at either WeebCon or PopCon Indy, I don't remember which one. Somebody who lived in Indianapolis said they parked in that garage and it was $30 a day, and I'm like, okay,
that's pricey, but that's tolerable. And then we got there on Saturday, and they'd gone over to their event, or Friday, sorry, they'd switched their event parking, and it was now $45, and we were like, well, we've already decided to park here. We are.
And again, it's completely arbitrary, and we know that, as evidenced by the fact that they just made it a different number on Sunday.
Yep. And there was at least one car park we could see walking back and forth in parts of the convention center that was doing $50 a day. And just like, that's pretty much the definition of highway robbery.
So, short version of that is the experience is great, but it is an expensive experience.
Yeah. And a lot of it comes down to how comfortable are you with the expense? Like, again, if you are in Indianapolis, especially if you're close enough that you can, like, I don't know, go on a bus or something.
Yeah.
Great.
Or like, if you can carpool with, like, 5 people.
Yeah. Like, I know one of the people at the table for zombie, whatever it was, basically said to the GM, roughly when do you think this will end? Because my friends and I want to, like, order an Uber. Mm-hmm. And the GM was like, yeah, it usually goes for about, like, it's scheduled for a 4-hour time slot. It usually goes to, like, 3 and a little bit of change. So he's clearly run it multiple times. But again, like, I suspect there are a bunch of people who were using Uber rather than paying for parking, which, again, valid choice.
We didn't want to risk even trying that.
Nope.
But yeah, I did really like it. It's an expensive experience. I will admit now that it's over, I want to go back. We are going to have such bad con drop tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah, going back to work after this is going to suck.
80,000 person circus back to work. Not great, but we did have a great time. I'm really glad we went. I'm glad we tried it.
So am I. Like, I don't have regrets. It's mostly just a case of, like, my comment to you was, I can see this being a con we do like every other year, but I also know how bonkers we are.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're in the country next year, we'll probably end up going back.
Yeah. I do think it depends on what games we can get into also.
Yeah.
And like how full the schedule is and how shitty the system is with like dicking us over and stuff like that.
Yeah. Like, if we ended, like, that's the thing with a board game con. 90% of the fun you have is dependent entirely on what games you're doing. Like, if you get the stuff you want, if those games go well, if you have fun in those games, you're going to rate the con highly. You're going to say that was a good time at a con. If there's some problem with the game, if, like again, the guy who had been trying to play Fall in London for, like, 2 different sessions and the GMs just hadn't turned up, like, he probably did not have a great time there. Like, I fairly confident he enjoyed playing Starfinder with us, but it's also not what he wanted to do in that time slot, and I feel bad for him. Like, I'm grateful that happened just because it made our Starfinder game could actually happen, but I don't know.
So yeah, that was GenCon. We should probably stop talking because we're almost back to town. And
Yep.
also, like, this episode is ridiculously long, and you really should cut it out into parts.
No.
No one is listening to it.
Of course not. It's funny.
You're funny.
I try. So, do you think we've got power?
I don't know. Let's find out together.
Yep. We are gonna, like, stop the episode before we actually get home because, like,
So you don't hear us cursing if we don't have power?
Yeah, we would definitely break the filter on how many swear words we're allowed to use in an episode if we get back and we don't have power. Because if that happens, I'm calling the landlords and I'm going to be very, very angry. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. If you're crazy enough to have listened to all God knows how much of this, and we will hopefully see you next week for where the hell are we going? Key City
Steampunk in Gettysburg, which is the longest drive we're doing.
Yep.
But 6 hours. But
oh god,
I think it's like 5. I don't really know.
Yeah, it's a relatively lengthy drive.
But it's worth it for Steampunk. I feel like Steampunk's the only one we'll drive that far for.
Yeah, we do like our Steampunk cons.
And it's been a long time since we've been to one. I don't think we've been to one since Bourbon City.
We have not.
We really need to work on better outros.
Again, I came up with a consistent intro, and you keep deliberately ruining it. So,
yes, but the intro, at least you can, like, skip past to get to the episode. Like, this part, like, if anyone's listening to this.
That crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.